Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to EWGFI Gaming. Today, I'm starting off just chatting. There are some things I would like to address as far as my stream is concerned. I am gaining more knowledge each day about YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Um, I do. I am continuing to stream on all three platforms. Um, I do have some copyright strikes on YouTube and I believe also on Facebook. And I have decided to take down every video that has a copyright claim that is not allowed on YouTube specifically. So, thanks for being here. I am looking for more information to broaden my horizons in regards to copyright claims because I do not want to receive any copyright claims. I do not want to go against community guidelines. I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to use anyone's content without their permission, and things are going to stay that way for the remainder of my time streaming. I know that it is really easy to get copyright striked. I mean, there's been times where I've just been playing games that are not other people's content, and I still get strikes on the content I create from those games. So, needless to say, I just want to keep everything straight and narrow and remain on good terms as far as my copyright strikes. And I do watch other streamers do reacts quite often, and it inspires me to want to do the same thing, but I haven't had any success in reacting to videos and not getting strikes. So I don't want to go back down that road where it's like, oh, well, I would really like to give my opinion on a particular video. So I think how I'm going to get around that is I'm going to give my opinions on videos, but I am not going to actually show the video in my stream. It's just going to be my face or whatever I decide to put up in regards to that information. So I think that giving opinions on things is important because it shows you kind of more about me as a person and what I like and dislike. I have a tendency to be a relatively picky person, and I look for a certain niche and certain qualities of things. So I'm not the type of guy that just likes everything. I will also say that I do like a large variety of different things, but there's different nuances as to my particular opinion on that subject. So, anyway, I appreciate you being here. Thank you. I mean, if I get one viewer or a million viewers, I'm just as happy because I appreciate the time it takes to actually watch a person. And if you're just one guy and I have a one-man audience, that is you're working just as hard as I am, in my opinion, to make things happen. And the support of one person is worth a lot to me. And I'm not necessarily fixated on views. I kind of just do this more for fun at this stage of my life. So I wanted to put some content out there because it's been quite a number of days since I posted anything, and I've been inspired by different streamers to try to come at things with a new angle. Tentatively get myself into a position where I am better at articulating ideas over the mic and communicating with my audience and getting to the point where they can actually understand who I am as a person. And I've kind of been working on getting out of my own way and talking more and just maintaining my ability to talk and not really getting frustrated or scared or spooked because of stage fright, because there is really no reason why I should be afraid, especially with a small audience. If I ever do get to the point where I do have large audiences, I will definitely be more considerate about what I say. I'll probably swear less. I'll probably focus on creating quality content that's maybe even age unrestricted by age, content that's unrestricted by age. Um, but for the most part, I am mostly an 18 plus streamer. I just like to keep things that way. I don't really want to say something in front of someone's child and upset them because, like, oh well, we heard EWGFI say fuck you, and we don't want our kids hearing that. And if I let an occasional F word slip, I don't think that's the biggest deal. And I just don't want to present that type of information to children, because I don't think children should be in should be watching content that is somewhat profane. So regardless, thanks for being here, and I might play a game. I might try to contact some people and see what they are up to, and maybe get some other people on the mic. Okay, so. Huh. Jer, what's up, Jer? For some reason, the when I did that call, it didn't ring like it usually does, but it still worked. I actually just went live, and I was gonna ask you if you wanted to like hop in chat and like talk. Okay, sounds cool. That's what we'll do then.
Oh man, here I am, as promised.
So anyway, I've been looking up videos on how to avoid copyright strikes on YouTube, and some people are saying that there is no way to avoid copyright strikes.
Dude, I sometimes you frustrate me, bro. I have explained to you how it works. I don't understand what information you're missing.
Well, it doesn't.
What are you confused about? Like YouTube has the AI. The AI has a list of every song. It has pattern recognition. If it hears that you play something that matches the pattern in its copyright pool, it auto flags you. So the way you avoid it is by not doing that. That's the only way. There's nothing. There's no like rocket science to this. It's like,
But you can get copyright claims just for using someone's YouTube video.
right. So I'll repeat it. There is a YouTube and Facebook has basically an AI algorithm, right? So like there are apps that work this way, right? There are apps people have made that if you're listening to a song on the radio, you can turn on the app and it will tell you what the song is. Do you know about those?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's how it works. It listens to the same way those apps work. It listens to the song or the audio, not just the song, the audio or the song, and then it says, okay, that's from this, right? That there are basic apps that do that are just meant to figure out, like if you hear a song you're like, oh, what is this? I want to listen to it later. That's how the thing works. So it's got a big pool of things. It's got everything that's copywritten in the database, right? And it does what the app does. If it hears something, it figures out what it's hearing, and then it checks the copyright database. And if it ever matches, it flags you automatically.
Right.
That's the way it works.
Well, what I decided is that what I might do is create opinion videos, but not actually play the content from those videos in my video.
That's going to reduce the quality of the opinion video pretty intensely.
Well,
People usually want to see the content of what they're reacting to, and then the discussion's more clear.
yeah.
I mean, dude, people have given you what I think the best advice is over and over. You just didn't listen to it. Just get off of Facebook and YouTube. Go on just Twitch, and then you won't have the problem because Twitch doesn't do that. Twitch doesn't have an AI algorithm that checks all copyright.
Yeah. Um, I could just go on them individually and decide to do like certain things on YouTube and certain things on Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, like, what's the highest amount of viewers you've ever had at once?
Like 10.
Okay. So that means at best, if we say 100% of them came from Facebook and YouTube, you have gotten 10 viewers in exchange from Facebook and YouTube. In exchange for all the copyright problems. Do you think that being able to listen to what you want and play what you want and manage that yourself is worth giving up 10 viewers? Probably less because that was the most you ever had.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then there you go. That's what I would do. Because your issue is a quality issue. Your stream isn't of high enough quality that people want to watch it. Well, there's also the discovery issue. People have to discover your stream, but the copyright thing is going to reduce your ability to improve quality. And having 10 people watch your content on Facebook or whatever is not. It's not. You'll never get where you want to go if you maintain that, right? You should just disconnect from Facebook and YouTube and I mean, the only other option you have is to listen to like copyright-free music playlists, and that's it. But the shit will probably flag shit from gameplay too. So
Yeah, I have videos that got claimed that I was just playing a game.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the whole Facebook, the way Facebook and YouTube do it is just foolish. You can't really mess around with that. I don't know how people overcome that. I mean, maybe there's some benefit in learning how to overcome that, but I feel like all you're doing is you're getting, even if you do that perfectly, you'll get like 10 viewers. You know what I mean? And it's like,
Right.
okay, is 10 viewers gonna really matter in the long haul? Maybe, but like more than likely, the issue will be whether you can improve the stream
I
quality or not.
guess I wonder if I could react to Troy's videos if I get Troy's permission.
I mean, I I'm sure you probably could. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think React content makes sense for you to do because I'm gonna be pretty frank about this. No one gives a fuck what your opinion is. You know what I mean? You're a nobody. You're just a random guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The reason you like watching Asmongold react videos is because you actually care what Asmongold's opinion is, because he's already, and the reason you care about what his opinion is the same reason he already has the following, because he managed to figure out how to present himself and set up his stream so now people know who he is. React content is like, it's watching someone watch a YouTube video. If it's of someone no one knows and it's a random person, it's like, hey, do you want to watch me watch a YouTube video? And it's like, no, I'd rather just watch the YouTube video on my own. That'll be most people's reaction. So I
Yeah.
think like Asmongold settled on React content because he got so popular that he was able to do whatever he wanted. And then when he explored that, he found out he was very good at it. Your path is not going to be the same as Asmongold's because you're not even close to the same person as Asmongold. Asmongold, like, you're in a lot of ways you're the opposite. Like, Asmongold dedicated all his time to playing one video game genre, primarily one video game, specialized in one genre, and played super hardcore and super competitively. I've been your friend for a while, so I know you pretty well. You never play games competitively. You pretty much always exclusively play casually, and you never dedicate all your time to even one game, not to mention one genre, like specialize in it. You just tend to like dabble a little bit in each game, type of game, and then get tired of it and move on. So it's like to try to do what someone who is the opposite of you in many ways is doing is never going to work for you because you're trying to be them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So
Um,
like I would try shit. I mean if you have an idea and you think it'll work, try it. I mean regardless of whatever the advice you get is or whatever, but I would just say why do you want to stream? That's the real question.
well, I figure if I'm gonna be online and playing games anyway, I might as well stream it.
Okay. So does that mean you don't necessarily really want to stream? You're just like kind of like I might as well do it if I'm doing this anyway.
Um, no, I do want to stream. Like, I like
Okay.
the idea of having an audience.
Okay. Why?
Um, because when there are people there that can actually interact with my stream, I can talk to them about what's going on, and I I like the idea of creating content. Um,
Why? Why do you like the idea of creating content?
I like the idea of creating content because I mean, it's like it's not a high chance, but I could become successful with it.
Okay. And what does become successful with it mean? How do you measure successful with it?
I would say success would be like having a consistent viewer base and making money.
Okay, so you want to become YouTube famous. That's pretty much it, right?
Uh, yeah, I wouldn't mind becoming YouTube famous. I wouldn't be upset about it.
I don't know. I feel like you have to be honest with yourself because here's what my opinion is on people who are successful. If you're not honest about why you want what you want, you'll never get it. And I don't think wanting to be famous or money is enough of a motivation. I don't. I just don't. Because guess what? Everybody wants that. If that was enough for a motivation, then everybody would have succeeded, right? Like it has to be something that is like this is who I am type thing. In my opinion, that's how I look at it, right? And it's like you could want to become more like that person and find out why you are the way you are or something. But if your only motivation is like money and fame, that's a pretty shallow motivation, and it's not. You won't. Everyone wants that. Everyone. So it's like the likelihood of you being willing to sacrifice enough to get it is very low, unless there's a deeper reason as to why you do it. This is how I look at it with myself, like with like wanting to write stuff. Like so if I ever became a writer, I would write under a pseudonym because I know that there is a part of my personality that I'm not fond of. I don't really know how true this is anymore, but that has a desire for like recognition. And it's like, well, I'm not going to let myself get that. Like if I become a writer, I will write under a pen name so I don't get the recognition. And that way I know that the reason I'm pursuing it is because I want to write. And that's like actually a good reason, right? Because that's what your day is going to be, right? And it's like if you've watched I don't know if you've ever watched Asmongold's videos about how he got into what he was doing, but he's pretty straight up about it. He's like, I was doing this the whole time. This is who I am.
Yeah.
I was always on WoW playing all the time, recording it, like, going on the forums, recording the drama, you know, taking pictures and screenshots of things. So his personality, that's who he is. He was always taking screenshots and playing all the time and playing competitively and it wasn't like he was just playing a game. He was trying to be the best. Like he was like not sleeping for 2.5 days, trying to become the world's first player to do certain shit in Wrath of the Lich King and trying to get his guild to like the number one thing. That's a fuckload of dedication and work, and probably a large percentage of the time he was not having fun. He was just grinding and working. And it's like, I never see you typically do that. Like at the minute the game isn't fun anymore to you, you just stop playing usually, which is what most people do. So it's like, I think you have to be realistic in asking yourself why you want to do what you want to do, right? And it's like, because ultimately, like I said, everyone wants to just make money doing fun shit, playing video games. And if that was enough, then no, like, if everyone could do it, no one would make money. If it was a little like, then everyone would just have one viewer instead of one guy having millions of viewers, right? So it's like, there's it's gonna come down to, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to give shit up to make it happen. And if you don't, that's going to be a measurement of what do you really want, right? Like at the end of the day, you want to do it because it's fun and you don't like putting in work, right? Because that's might be a reason, right? I'm not speaking to you, but like one reason a person might want to stream is because they don't want to work, right? It's like, oh, I can make money playing video games. That's not work. I can make money not working. Let's do that. But then it's going to come down to, well, what if trying to make a stream becomes work for you? What if it's like, oh, I have to fucking watch reviews of my videos and tear it apart, and I have to like analyze what I did wrong and then write a script and then edit the script and then like go look at my gameplay, look up how to get better at the game, edit my gameplay, pay someone to fucking train me to get better at the game. That's gonna all not be fun and be work, and it's gonna be like a job. And if the reason you want to do it is because you don't want to work, you're not going to do that shit, and therefore you won't be successful. You know what I mean? So that's why I'm asking you, like, why do you want to do it? And it's a question really for yourself. I mean, not really for me to know, but like, because whatever the real reason you want to do it is going to be what determines how it plays out. Like if
Yeah.
you want to stream because you feel like it's something you were meant to do and you've always wanted to do it and it's like this deeply passionate thing, the person who feels like that will give up anything for it. They won't see their family. They'll spend less time with their friends. They'll put in the work. They'll do it when it's not fun. They'll be miserable for like months at a time for like the sliver of hope that it'll pan out, and they'll make tremendous sacrifices because that's what life comes down to. You only have so much time. Like it's like, okay, if John comes over and you feel like hanging out with John, are you going to tell John to peace out because you have to work on your stream? And it's like, if you're not going to do that, that means that you don't want it enough to be successful because all it takes is
Yeah.
someone knocking on your door to make you not do it. And if that, like, the likelihood of that, it's impossible to succeed at anything if that's what it is, right? Especially if it's hard to do, which it is. It's like if you want to be a streamer, that means your friends are going to be like, hey, let's hang out. And you got to be like, no, I got to work on this. No, I got to work on this. No, I got to work on this. And if every time they hang out, you'll be like, oh, this will be more fun. I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it. You're never going to get there because the guys you're competing with are going to say, fuck it. I'm working on my stream. I'm working on my stream. I'm working on my stream. And then that's what they'll do. And then that's who you're competing with. And they're going to be more successful. And then you're never going to get the views. So it's like, it comes down to like, why do you want to do it? you know, it's like, are you motivated by what you don't want to do or what you do want to do? And like the question becomes, why do you want to do it? Because like for me, I ask myself this question all the time, and your brain is very good at tricking itself. So it's a very hard question to ask yourself. It's like, well, the reason I want to do something creative is because that's how my personality is. I think outside the box, and that's how my personality's always been. And I've been told that hundreds of times by people. All my best moments kind of come back to that quality. I've thought about what made me who I am in the beginning of my life, and I'm like, yeah, I have this quality, and I owe it to myself to find out if it can go anywhere and if I have the discipline. And right now, I don't have the discipline. Like, I mean, I should be working on it all the time and obsessing over it, but a lot of times I'm not. Like I'll listen to music or do stupid shit instead. And it's like at the end of the day, if that keeps happening, that means I don't want it enough and I'll have to give up on it. But it's like it's an important question to ask because we're all on the clock. We're all on the clock all the time. It's like eventually life's gonna kick the fucking door in and be like, hey, you know, like in some form or another, right? Whether that's your bills or whatever, like you're gonna have to do other shit. And if you wait too long, then all that other shit you have to do is just so much that you have to do it all the time. and then you never like then you just don't have enough time. So it's like, I mean, for me, I look at it like that. Like, why do you really want to do it? And you can't lying to yourself. All you do is put yourself in like in hell, basically. Like the truth is all that matters with that, and it doesn't matter how much you trick yourself. It doesn't matter how much you lie to yourself. It's like you have a nature. Your nature is the way you are. You can change your nature, and that's something you should try to do no matter what to improve at something. But there has to be a your nature is dictating what you're aiming at and why you want it. And if you lie to yourself about why you want it, you'll never succeed, right? It's like for example, if the reason you want to stream is because you want to make money without working, well, what if someone knocks on your door and says, "Hey, dude, if you like flip these drugs for me, you can get 10 grand." Well, you'll probably go do that because that's what you're actually aiming at. You're aiming at money without work, right? And if that's what it is, then why the fuck would you? Why would you?
I
You
wouldn't
know,
sell drugs.
I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking about a person.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm just saying hypothetically. But like, no one can say what they would or wouldn't do with certainty in all scenarios. I mean, that's like because people aren't 100% honest with themselves. And if they were, they would be like a paragon of wisdom. Their life would be, going very well. But it's like if like let's say you have someone who wants to stream and they tell themselves, "Oh, it's my dream, I want to do it," because that's all the shit they're just repeating the shit they hear online. That's what you're supposed to say. But in reality, deep down, they're just lazy and they don't want to get a job, and they're at the computer and they're like, "Oh, well, I'm playing video games, I might as well try to make money anyway." And it's like, well, that's never gonna fucking go anywhere because the real thing motivating it is I don't want to work, right? The first example I gave was way better because it's like, okay, well then what's going to happen when streaming turns into work, which it will. They won't do it because that's the real reason. That's the real thing they're aiming at, right? I don't want to work. If that's the real thing they're aiming at, then they can't be a successful streamer because eventually everything turns into work. If it wasn't hard work, everyone would be successful at it. So it's like that, right? I mean, whatever the real reason is, right? Like the person who will be successful is the person who's like, I want this enough to sacrifice time with my friends, time with my family, uh, you know, fun. I'll sacrifice fun to do this. I will become more disciplined. I'll work harder at it. That person will succeed. The person who's just like, oh yeah, I'm playing video games and I might as well stream. I don't think they will ever realistically become a streamer, personally. That person might become a streamer if they transform themselves into the other person I mentioned, which there's a process to do. But in order to do that, you have to know why you really want a thing, and you have to ask yourself that. Because, like for me, it's like that's the way I look at it, right? I mean, the biggest reason I'm trying to do creative shit is because I know temperamentally I have that quality to me, and I want to see if it can go anywhere, and I want to learn about myself. That's the real thing right now is I want to learn more about who I am and explore this and see if I really like doing it because it's a thing I imagine myself doing, and I'm like, okay, well, let's see if it can be the way you imagine, and let's try it out. So I've got like I want to try comedy, I want to try the podcast thing, and I'm like I was writing earlier. I finished the short story I started yesterday. It wasn't that long though, so I didn't work hard enough on it. I was listening to music the whole time. If I was really working hard, I wouldn't listen to music. I would just sit down and write in silence, so I would be more efficient. So I'm still there's still an impulsive side of me that's in the way that wants to listen to music, and it's like if I can't give up listening to music to fucking do this, then I'm never gonna make it, and I already know that. So it's like that, you know what I mean? It's like you have to calibrate it that way. It's like because the way you get there is by go back to Asmongold, right? He was doing that the whole time. And he was honest with himself. He said, I don't want to work. I don't care. He said, if I succeeded or failed, I would have been doing it. I would have just been doing this type of shit. But also, his personality was already naturally leaning that way because he liked recording it and taking screenshots and keeping track of everything and telling stories and talking about shit. And so he was good at doing that and he liked doing all that. So,
Um. Yeah, I would agree that me and Asmongold are definitely like opposite types of people, and
Yeah,
he
the gaming thread is there, but other than that,
um, it seems like he has more of a passion for gaming than I do.
yeah. And for MMOs specifically, because it's not like Asmongold got popular because he had a passion for gaming. He got popular because he had a passion for MMOs, and there was a specific market there, and then he kept focusing in that specific direction and specific subgenre, and then he broke through so hard that then he could just do whatever he wanted. Then it was like, okay, now I'm just going to do whatever I want gaming wise. But he loses tons of viewers when he does that half the time too. And he talks about
Yeah,
it. So
well,
like,
he plays games that people don't want him to play, and
yeah,
they get upset, and but he doesn't care, and he just bans like all kinds of people.
bands everywhere. Yeah. I mean, because my biggest thing is like you don't really seem like you enjoy gaming enough. That's my observation as a friend. You don't seem like you enjoy gaming enough as a person I observe to stream gaming and make money on it full time. Because I mean, like I think about how many times I've talked to you and like, hey, let's play a game today, any game, and we'll talk for 4 hours, and you'll be like, I don't feel like gaming today, man. I don't feel like gaming today, man. I don't feel like gaming today, man. And that was just for fun, right? If you
Yeah,
do it for streaming, it's going to be work. It's going to be like, yeah, people
I
are
have to
expecting you
play
to
this
get on.
video game today. I have
Yes.
to create a schedule. I have to play this game to completion. I have to
Yeah.
like, and I think the reason why I'm motivated, like the reason why I'm unmotivated to work as hard as I can is because I'm just not very naturally good at games.
I mean, there's no such thing as naturally good. Everyone's good at shit because they work at it. I mean, yeah, maybe you're not naturally good, but still. I mean, I think that's a sign that you just not that gaming isn't the thing. Like, why aren't you naturally good? Because you didn't game as much as the people who were good. Like, I'm not that good at shooters, but I'm okay because when I was younger, I played shooters for hundreds of hours with my friends. Like semi-competitively, we would play like really hardcore, like not in like a casual fuck around kind of way. So it's like that's all it is. And if it's like you have to, it's just you have to go back and ask yourself the question: Why didn't I do that? Why wasn't I playing those things? And I think you have to be honest with yourself about everything because part of it is it's not necessarily that you're not good; it's that your setup is as good enough either. Whether that's your internet connection, like I mean, you being like not working and living at home still at our age is a big part of that whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like you have this computer setup that's pretty decent, but at the same time, I don't know how your internet connection is. I didn't really test it out too much. I mean, I know I was playing Valheim and it was less smooth than when I play. But your FPS said it was okay. So I don't know. I thought maybe it was the internet, but I don't know what the deal is. But it's like if you really want to, in my opinion, if you really wanted to stream, you'd get your own apartment and get a fucking top quality internet, get a top quality rig, and you'd be motivated to work for those things. You'd be motivated to do things you hate doing to get the things you need to do the things you want to do, right? And
yeah,
it's like you would do all that, and it's like I mean, I'm not doing that with a lot of my writing shit and stuff right now, but so it's the same thing with me. I mean, the laziness component is a motivator, a negative motivator in my regard too. So I'm not saying shit I don't. I'm not. I'm not saying my shit doesn't stink. I'm just saying that ultimately does come down to sacrificing shit, right? I mean, if you got to give up free time and do shit you don't want to do, then you'll get done when you need it to get done. But I mean, I'm not saying don't try. Obviously, you obviously want to try and do all that, but you want to be, you know, honest with yourself about what's going on as well,
yeah.
which is tricky. But I mean, I would definitely say at least get off Facebook and YouTube so you don't have the copyright problem. You could try to do a different solution, but I mean, you had this problem for over a year now and it's not fixed. So that's at least one easy solution I can think of. What the hell? don't even know shit about this whole.
Yeah, Thanksgiving's like right around the corner. It's coming up fast. Let's watch. Huh. Interesting.
Huh. Oh man. Number between 1 and 19. Would you pick 17 last time?
Yeah.
God damn. All right. Here we go. 17 it is.
What is what is the reason for that number?
I will screen share you and show you. So for my 5th D&D campaign, which is my final campaign, it's a double post-apocalyptic version of the world, and there are things called seekers who have the ability to see threads of fate connected to memories. And I structured the final D&D campaign this way so I could transition from D&D writing D&D campaigns to writing short stories. These are the 19 short stories that I still have to write that can show up in the world. I'm sure there'll be more, but I wrote 19. Actually, 19 is going to break into 2 separate stories, at least. 17 is the mentor of the Black Hand rescuing Athena from the Palace of Zeus. It's not actually Zeus or Athena. Zeus is the Zeus in real life, and he had a daughter in the campaign and named her Athena. So he used the Greek naming convention of the gods in his story, but that's number 17. Like this one's 3 stories, so they're all multiple, right? Like this one's actually 3 stories. This one is actually probably going to be 2 to 4. This one's at least 3. So it's actually more than 1 story each. Night of Envy. See, I didn't have to like these 2. I didn't have to write any notes on because I started them. Like this one's actually only have 1 story left to finish. I worked the hardest on that one. This one's I've started multiple times and I know how it goes. I basically finished the first short story. Staggy's Degradation. I did the first short story. It's going to be at least 3 Um, Thaggius is a dwarf trapped in the soul of a construct, and he finds out that all the dwarves have been wiped out.
So
Um,
this is like a list of things you plan on writing.
this is a list of short stories that are ideas that are actually going to each be multiple short stories. So this one's pretty much done. This one is like 2/3 done. Uh, this one is 1/3 done. This one is at least 1/3 done, maybe 2/3 done. That's on my other computer. I have to go find it to check. This one I remember I started the first story and maybe I finished it. Can't remember, so maybe 1/3 done, 1/4 done. I finished this one, but I need to edit the fuck out of it. This is actually the first one I ever wrote, and it's like it's just nothing but a fight sequence. This is actually the assassin is Matt's character from the last D&D campaign. And Stratus Seeds is the most honorable and powerful knight in my story that's ever existed. He's never lost. I don't think he's ever even been hit. Um, Death of Mashara, I started that one multiple times. I actually was messing with it on my before I went on this whole podcast kick and getting back into my motivational, zone. I had started this one multiple times. Mashara is Matt's character's mom. He's actually the leader of the assassins. The what did I call them? I think I called them the Mazasharine. And she's trying to. I just wrote down the notes really chaotically because I know what happens in all of them. But she's fighting a guy named Mordok Salamnia, which is named after a character in a video game that I encountered when I was a kid. That's just because he was one of the first characters I came up with, so I just pulled a name from something else, so I would have a easier time remembering it. But Mordok is the leader of the Black Hand, which is fundamentally usually the villain organization in my world, but sometimes not always. In the second campaign, the Black Hand becomes good, and you realize there's way more complex shit going on. Battle of the Brothers is after Matt's assassin character kills Stratus Seeds. He then confronts and tries to kill Zeus's character, who ends up becoming a knight. There's a mysterious character called Lucardius, the Black, and Lucardius is in the post-apocalyptic world. Lucardius is fundamentally like the last great hero, the greatest knight alive, but he vanished. And that's actually where they are in the Badlands campaign right now. I reached out to Joe and saw if him and Ken wanted to finish it. Or sorry, I reached out to Ken rather and saw if him and Joe wanted to finish it. And they figured out that Lucardius is Zeus's character eventually, but yes. That's gonna be basically I don't know. Lucardius wears a black suit of armor that he can never take off, and the way he was born is he threw himself into a forge called the Everforge, and the Everforge will, if you throw something into the forge, it will cast it out as the opposite of itself. So after Zeus's character kills Matt, his brother, he becomes so like broken and realizes how evil he's become that he casts himself in the forge to die, and then he comes out as he makes a suit of armor to cast himself in because part of him is afraid of dying, and then he casts himself in the forge and comes out as Lucardius, who is like the opposite of his old self. Lucardius is like a pure paragon of good. Let's see, Birth of Lucardius. Oh yeah, so this is they have the duel. Lucardius kills Matt. You see him go insane, and then Lucardius throws himself into the forge, and it's the final moments. This is like a random short story idea I had that kind of came to me listening to music. That there's a major event called basically I haven't named the battle yet, but there's a battle at Drakthor. I mean, I'd have to explain too much of my world building and my magic system, but there's a thing called soul stones. They're very important. If you sunder your soul, this thing called the Atria, which is the source of all fate and causality, will try to mend the wound, and there's a ritual to turn that mending into a stone, and that stone is called a soul stone. And whatever happens to the stone happens to the thing it's bound to. And in this big battle, Zeus's character creates a soul stone that causes one of the apocalyptic forces. And that's like the key moment in the story that like all the flashbacks are sequenced around. So there's a tale of a very short story where a sailor is sailing into dock, in Drakthor, which is like the most indestructible city to ever exist. And when he sails into Drakthor, um, he like as he gets closer, he sees the city's on fire and the docks are burning, and he like his wife lives in the city, and he tries to get his crew to sail, but they turn against him and mutiny and kill him. And that's the way that short story ends. This one is from the perspective of one of the soldiers who like worship Zeus's character. When the soul stone goes off, it creates this thing called hellfire, which you can't really see unless you're right in front of it. It's like mostly invisible, but it burns your soul, and then as your soul burns, it like when it gets to the final part of your soul withering away and burning, you become an undead. So you'll become a zombie or like a skeleton. That's
Damn.
like the apocalyptic force that I said Zeus's character creates. So this character like is like, this story is like very like sad because like the young kid worships Zeus's character and is like he looks up to the king and he wants to become like a soldier who guards him with his life, and then at the end of the story Zeus's character lights the fucking soul stone up and kills him. Um yeah, girl gets chased through the city, she's about to get raped, Ebon Flame Knights save her. Ebon Flame Knights are one of the 5 Knight Orders of the Eastern Kingdom called Elrond in my world. Um, this is all again like centered around that big battle, all the events of the city that set up the post-apocalyptic event. Um, oh, Savai. Savai's from my second campaign called Elrond. He's a knight who traveled to each of the 5 knightdoms to determine which path he should walk. And he got a weapon or a relic from each of them, and he's basically like a knight of no paths. Because the Elrindi knighthoods, there's a dragon, there's ancient elves that are like bound to nature that like religiously guide them, and each of those elves were created by a dragon, and those dragons are like were there at the dawn of time, and so the religion's very powerful, and each religion has one relic that the greatest knight can achieve, and that's like what all the knights are aspiring to do. And so each of the knighthoods has a different ideal, a different series of ideas that you would pursue um, in trying to attain that. But Savai has walked the path. He tried to discover each of them, then he ended up becoming the Knight of No Paths. And this is him in his old age. He held on to one of the 5 relics is called Tide Drinker, and it's a blade that can absorb the ocean or water, and it can either cast it out as like each of the 5 relics are meant to slay dragons, basically. So like Tide Drinker quenches the dragon's flame, and it can be used to like knock a dragon out of the sky by like creating a tidal wave that brings them down. Um, but if it holds too much water, it'll be forced to release it and create a huge surge. And this is in the post-apoc. Where was it? Oh yeah, number 12. Yeah, Savai's a hero. He's reminiscing about the past. He's an old man. He is holding on to Tide Drinker, and a series of events happens in the city where this like really resentful shit of a young kid who's like a punk, this young teenager, he's like beating the shit out of the old man. Like the old man sees him bullying a kid, he stops him from bullying the kid. Then the kid starts fucking with the old man and skulking around his house. And eventually the kid manages to like knock the old man's cane away and break his leg, which is Savai's the old man. He's the ancient hero. And when he drops the blade, it falls in the ocean because Savai's been carrying this blade. And he thinks about how he shouldn't have carried the blade for so long, how he regrets not fighting more in the past with the blade, and now he's got this ancient weapon in this. There's a place called Pearl, which was one of my cities called Lilla Pearl, got disintegrated, and they reformed it into they took all the docks, the ships out to dock in the ocean, and made like a dock city to get away from the apocalyptic mainland. And when the blade gets knocked into the ocean, at the end of the story, it creates a tidal wave and kills everyone, and it wipes the city out. I don't know. Number 13, I don't know if I'm going to write. Twizik, I think I don't like this idea. Like, this is kind of like, I'm not going to do that one. I've had a bunch of reasons. Birth of the Conduit. Conduit's a mysterious force. He is the one who created the guns that the Seekers use, and the guns let the Seekers see threads of fate and manipulate fate. And I'd be here all day explaining all that. This is actually a story of a moment that happened in the main campaigns. The villain of the second campaign was called Galvesh. Galvesh used to be like best friends at the party, and he was an Ebon Flame Knight. The Ebon Flame is all about strength and confronting evil and risking your life very recklessly. They have the best warriors, and Galvesh is like was the knight who epitomized this. And there's a moment in the story when they find Galvesh had two best friends. When they met him, they died, and then Galvesh became obsessed with becoming the ultimate Ebon Flame Knight. And at one point in the story, they found Galvesh with his arm cut off, like his sword arm cut off, having been tortured by minotaurs, and I think it was orcs and minotaurs. And this story is it's that moment when they find him from his perspective, so you know his thoughts. The same thing with number 16. There's a moment where after Galvesh becomes a villain, he has a parlay with Tar Urshrock, who is Ken's character, and Tar tries to duel him and loses, and then he expects Galvesh to kill him, and he doesn't. Mentor of the Black Hand rescues Athena from Zeus. Zeus's character's daughter's named Athena, and someone kidnaps her when they realize how evil Zeus is becoming to get her away from him. Kind of like a Darth Vader scenario. The dramatic meaning of the Elrendi knighthoods, discussion ensues about what to do in the West, how to resolve the breach in power, about the part of the Drow, to discuss what to do with the knight relics after the Battle of Halvacor, which becomes violent and chaotic. Someone steps forward, however, and rallies the council and the knighthoods to war. I think that someone is Savai. Savai is going to step forward with an amulet that's forged from the metals of the 5 knighthoods, and each of the knighthoods respects him enough to hear what he has to say. And as the knight, it's too much for me to explain the way that works. The Elrendi had the ability to forge fate into metal. That's how they made all their ancient relics. So, like, that's why only the most worthy knight will find the blade. It's because there's this, like I said, there's this thing called the Atria. It has, like, silvery wisps that come from, like, the source of fate, and they're always there, but you can't see them. Dragons and griffins can see them, naturally. But there was an ancient empire called the Erathians who were, like, these benevolent gods, and, like, they were, like, a utopian empire. And they found a way to bind their souls with griffins and, like, form, like, a bond. And the griffins taught them how to create the soul stones. And when you create a soul stone, you actually, if you learn how to do it, you can see the threads of fate. So, like, you'll look at a living creature and you'll see, like, these white silvery threads coming off of them that are, like, pulling them towards all their potential destinies. And the land does it. Everything that's alive does it. Like, the land itself, you can see tiny threads connecting to it and stuff like that. But those threads, the Elrendi knights, the ancient knights, and the dragons. It's really the dragons. The dragons that founded the 5 knighthoods taught the knights of Elrond how to fold the fate into the metal, so that only the person who is most destined to wield it and most worthy to the ideals would find the blade. They're not all blades. There's 2 blades, 1 shield, one's a castle, and what's the last one? Ebon Flame Ebon Flame is a flail. It's called Gleam Crusher. And like I said, they're all meant to kill dragons. So Gleam Crusher, if you hit a dragon, it'll turn the fire inside the dragon against itself and, like, force the dragon to the ground. It can't fly anymore. Tide Drinker is the Crimson Tide's weapon. Gorion has a castle called the Glass Castle. It's the only one that isn't a weapon of some kind. The High Order of Justice is a shield. And the Drow is also a blade. Yeah, so 2 blades, 1 flail. 2 blades, a flail, a mace. Sorry, 2 blades, a flail, a shield, and a castle are the 5 relics. But basically, Savai learns how to fold the metal and the fate into the metal himself, and he creates an amulet that, like, as the capital city of the Elrond knighthood is also made out of that technique, where you forge fate into the metal of the castle. And the metal is, like, partially translucent. You can kind of see through it partially when you're near the castle. And the way they determine who's in charge of the knighthoods, one of the knighthoods is always in charge of the capital city. And I think it was 7 years, but maybe it was longer, 5 to 7 years, might have even been 10. I don't remember the number of years. I'd have to look in my notes. Um, every so often, the knights all convene, and there's a great epic series of tournaments where the knights all fight, and the city absorbs the energy from the contest, and then whichever order of knights or whichever of the five orders does best in the tournament and is most destined to rule at that time will take over the city, and the city will actually change into the color of the city of the group that wins. Uh, so in the Elrond campaign, the Drow, like each of the Night Orders, is over like seen by a elf race of ancient elf race that are bound to the dragons and the gods, and the Drow win for the first time in hundreds of years at the beginning of the campaign, which is like a very dark omen for things to come. Um, so, but whatever. The wandering knight, he found a way to forge the metals of the five knighthoods into this amulet with five parts of the equal techniques. And he goes into this council meeting where basically all the knighthoods are like facing the potential extinction of their land. And while this is happening in the west, that dark force got released in the capital city, and Zeus's character is like slaughtering all these innocents and shit. And all the knights are arguing about what the fuck to do. Like, for one of the things they're arguing about is like the five relics each had a champion. The champions all except one die, and then they're trying to figure out what they should do with the blades, where they should put the relics and store them, because all of the ancient places that you would have kept the relics are no longer safe. They've all throughout the course of the story been discovered or destroyed. And then they're arguing about a lot of shit though. They're also arguing about what to do, whether they should go to war, where they should reinforce themselves. Everyone's starving. There's like famine everywhere. So they're arguing about how to resolve all this. And basically, Savai fucking eventually. The amulet is made the same way the city is, so it can detect the energy and the ebb and flow of the room, and it makes it so if all of the people, as they argue, the amulet's like pulling his soul out of him and like ripping it apart. So like, if the argument becomes too chaotic and destructive, he'll die. And all of the members of the five knighthoods actually respect Savai enough that him having this amulet makes them agree to go to war, and they agree to go to the west and save as many innocent people as they can. And then that's like a very dramatic secret. None of the players know this. I mean, like, that'll be one of the most surprising events when they see the flashback stories, is that the five knighthoods like showed up as one and saved the city. Because like the thing about Lucardius is he's like this heroic knight, but like this idea of knights being like, there's an ancient myth about knights having saved the world once, but the world is so post-apocalyptic, there's no history anymore, and everything's gone. Like, one of the things I did that was kind of tricky is there's the currency in the world is called Bex. And I actually, this is like a trick, I kind of lied. They're actually not Bex, they're called Beaks. But it would be too obvious if I said they were Beaks. So I said that the word was Bex instead. And I spelled it differently because like the language is degraded. And what the currency is like the griffins, who are like the embodiment of freedom and like purity, that like the ancient, like the pure utopian civilization found a way to bind to the griffins. The current post-apocalyptic city, the last piece of civilization left, is like cutting their beaks off and using the beaks as like a currency, basically, which is like a very horrible act because griffins are like in my world the embodiment of like good and purity. So, but for somewhere in the ancient world, like there's this story of knights becoming saviors, and the players think it's because of Lucardius, that he was the first of the knights. But Lucardius, there's hints that Lucardius is not the first one, and in reality, what happened is the five knighthoods saved the kingdoms. They saved the population from all being consumed by the hellfire at one point, and that's the only reason anyone's still alive. And then, yeah, so that's what 18 is. And 19, I wrote the first. I think there's going to be 2 stories for that one, maybe 3. I wrote the first one. That's the one I was working on yesterday and finished today. I didn't finish it. I finished the first draft, and it's horrible. So I got to edit it like 5 times. I might have made a short. I was thinking about making a short story explaining how the relics were made. There's actually is a 6th relic that is not bound to the knighthoods. It's called Blood Dragon. because basically all of the relics were made by dragons. Um, to I'm kind of curious if I do this, like what the screen looks like. Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah, each of the relics were made by dragons in order to kill dragons. Because in the ancient beginning of my world, there was an age where dragons ruled everything, and then the humans, the original, the ancient empire, the first one, the utopian one, was called the Erathian Empire, and the Erathian Empire basically convinced the first six dragons to bind with them and to work as one to create a harmonious future. And then the dragons that weren't willing to go along with this had to be killed. So each of the five dragons created a weapon um that was like a piece of their soul that the humans could use to kill dragons if they were worthy of it. But the last dragon, like those weapons were made to like defeat dragons, but the last dragon made a evil version of this relic. And like the way the other relics work is they just turn the dragon's nature against each other. But the last relic is called Blood Dragon. And Blood Dragon is a blade, so there's actually three blades. It's a blade that whenever it draws blood, absorbs the blood into like the current around the blade, and it'll form like this volatile energy. And as the energy builds, it'll turn into a bloody dragon wing. And but it also kills the user. Like it'll melt your flesh as it builds in energy. It's too volatile. So the only way to really be able to wield it is if you have a rage inside of you. Like barbarians can resist. In the third edition of D&D, barbarians can resist. They're the only ones with this quality called damage resistance, and they have damage resistance to everything. And they have like pure damage resistance. You need that quality. You need to have a rage inside you to wield the blade, to wield.
I will be right back. I'm here. I'm back.
In the guns are pieces of soul stones. So like this, they're called seekers because if you grab the gun and you have access to its abilities, you then have the powers of a soul hero basically. And then also like the gun, you're supposed to seek the soul stones that need destroying. Like as you destroy each stone, you can use the pieces from it as ammunition in your gun for your adventures, which is basically what the main characters are becoming. But there's a lot of seekers, and the seekers are like godlike powerful. They can all warp space and time and reality. They have insane abilities, and each of the guns has a distinct nature to it that's very powerful. Um, so that is the nature of, I mean, what's happening in the story, right? I mean, all these events these 19 events I have laid out are like the formative events that lead to the death of the soul heroes, the apocalyptic conditions the world is set up in, the destruction of the histories, and eventually someone creates the guns. They managed to fold fate into the guns that way, and the reason they did that was because they guaranteed that there would always be someone who could destroy the soul stones. So the remaining soul heroes, who are basically evil now, wouldn't have complete control of this reality. And the guns will manifest under the same conditions that a soul stone would have been made in the past if you're destined for them. So that is fundamentally what's at play.
The way that you said that the dragons work in your campaign sound pretty sick. Can you not hear me? Jer. Ah. Sorry, dude. Um
How could you?
I was saying that the way that the dragons work in your world sound really cool to me.
Thank you, dude. I appreciate it.
It sounds like an original idea or close to one anyway.
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, the ideas came to me pretty authentically after DMing over the years, so it's been a journey, but it's been a lot of fun. I mean, Ken always wanted me to write a novel I've thought about writing novels or a series of novels in this world. If I did, it would be in the post-apocalyptic version of the world. It wouldn't be in the main world, but um, yeah, I mean, it's cool. I love the post-apocalyptic version of the world with the soul heroes and the tone of the world is very grim. I mean, there's like these cloaked figures with guns that vanish and come and go at a whim, and then there's these the remnants of these groups that are like echoes of the ancient histories that have like lost themselves that the players are confronting. But ultimately, it's gonna come down to some crazy shit.
Sounds badass, man.
Yeah. Ugh. But yeah, the dragons are all gone now. I mean, well, yeah, they are. The five dragons that created the Night Orders, they gave up their physical form to guide like they traded in their physical form. There's a few abilities that dragons have that you can roll. A dragon can create a soul from a fraction of its own soul. So that's what all the ancient elves were. Like the elf groups were the elves of the original um, five dragons, and the dragons had to give up their physical forms in order to do that, to be able to create those elves. Um, and like that is ancient history that's kind of lost, right? Like the Night Orders in the beginning of the story, they just worship the elves. They don't worship the dragons. Only the highest level of people in the order know about the dragons and the history of the dragons and the elves. Um, but it's pretty much how it works. I mean, there's a lot, but a lot going on.
A lot going on, some might say.
Yeah, I told Nate about it. Nate was like, "Is this a thing you made up?" I was like, "Yeah, it is."
I don't know. We're gonna have Julius Avalar, the number one best seller.
Not if I don't work a lot harder than I am now. I'd have to make tremendous sacrifices to do that. I got to read a lot more too. I have to read hundreds and hundreds more books. I think the only thing I would let myself keep is basketball, maybe like working out in basketball. Like I would like read, write basketball, and like go to the gym because I want to be able to dunk. But I've already quit playing video games again. We'll see how long it lasts, but I've been people have been I haven't been tempted, but people have been asking me to play every day, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to. So for me, it's really just about reading, writing, and then I need to get like a job right now and start working again, and then get all of me going the same direction. But hopefully, man, I think my ideas are good enough. I just don't think I'm a good enough writer yet to do it. That's all.
Yeah. Well,
But the ideas is the easy part. Being a good enough writer is definitely the harder part of the story. Honestly, the biggest story I want to write is called The Siphon and Sunder Legacy. That's a thing I came up with originally as a book. I love that idea. That's an idea I wouldn't come back to until I was a really good writer. But like The Siphon and Sunder Legacy is hard to write because it's dark. I mean, I like dark shit in fantasy and fiction, but like The Siphon and Sunder Legacy, the main idea in that one is, I won't go into like the main ideas, but it's I told Gosner the whole story of it once when we were hanging out at the gym. We were like working out and we went swimming, and I told him the whole story while we were swimming, and he was like, "Holy shit, dude!"
yeah.
I mean, the ideas I have are the first story idea I ever came up with. This is years ago, even before I finished the D&D stuff. Was called The Chronicles of Brotherhood. It's not a very original name. The original name was going to be Blood Throne, and that idea has changed a lot over the years. Like the original concept was like, okay, what if vampires conquered humanity? And then they built a throne for the vampire king to sit on, and the throne was like connected to a vein network underneath of the ground. And like all the humans had to like go to these blood pools and cut their arms open and like put their blood in the fucking pool, and the blood would get drained and drank by the vampire king, and he would use that to become more powerful. And then eventually humanity usurped the vampires, but now they have to use this throne in like the reverse way, where like the king, the human king who sits on the throne, has to like give up his blood to his people to stop them from like turning into monsters or getting sick, basically, because the vampires feasted on them so long they infected them all. So they're like corrupted versions of humanity. I like that idea a lot. I mean, I know how that whole story would play out. I know the whole story of Blood Throne. The Siphon and Sunder Legacy, I know all of book one, most of book two, but the story gets pretty big. A lot of ideas came to me for the Siphon and Sunder Legacy when I was reading some, what was it called? Shattered Empires series, and whatever. I think it's called the Shattered Empire trilogy, and A Land Fit for Heroes. I read those, and like as I was reading it, there are things my brain imagined things that I thought would happen or hoped would happen that didn't even come close to happening, and then those things became ideas on their own, and it turned into the Siphon and Sunder legacy. I love the name of it too, of the series. It's like the perfect name. Love that shit. I've thought about blending the Siphon and Sunder legacy into Bloodthrone and turning them into one big thing. Like I had two ways I thought about doing it. One way was that Bloodthrone would be they'd be separate stories, but they'd also exist in the same universe. And then one day, a rift would open and they would go to war. But I was like, that's kind of whack. We'll see where it goes. But there's a song called "Crawl Out of Love" by Elenium, and it is the theme song for my favorite character from Siphon and Sunder. And he doesn't make it past book one. He's only a book one character, but his name's Al Haverick. He's a G. And by G, I mean he's why it's hard to write because it's dark. It is dark. Like the main thing that happens with him is his wife gets like very brutally raped and killed in front of him, and he's like pinned down and like forced to watch. And then um I'd have to explain how the magic works in the world too a little bit, but one of the things that happens in my world is your soul in that world for the magic system I had in mind. Your soul ends up like I might have explained it to you in the past. Your soul can bind with you in like a number of ways, and depending on how it binds to you, the way your powers manifest is different. So it either binds through hate. There's two pure methods, which is hate and love, and then there's two corrupted methods, which are much more unpredictable. And the reason those methods aren't trusted is because if whatever you bind your soul to, if you ever come in contact with it, you will die. You will be disintegrated. Your soul will you'll just be destroyed. And I think everyone will forget you ever existed. Basically, I don't know about the last part because that's a thing in my D&D world too, and I didn't know if I wanted to reuse that. But basically, so like if your soul was bound to the rain, like you loved the rain, and that like is a thing that marked your soul. If you ever get rained on, you'll die. You'll be destroyed. Uh, so one of the scenes I wrote was like there was a bunch of nights and the cloud like the cloud is the sky is like cloudless, but like there's this one knight who's like has all these tents he's pitching and shit, and he's like creating a fucking pavilion, and the other guys are like, "Are you fucking serious, dude? There's not even a cloud in the sky." And he's like, "Bro, like if you were in my position, would you fuck around? Like if a raindrop just happened to hit you, would you fuck around with this?" Um. But the reason I said I need to explain that is basically Al Haverick is in his journey basically hell bent on revenge. But there's another component to it where like he can't really remember his wife's fate. Well, he does, but he doesn't like to think of his wife's face because anytime he does, he remembers like her looking at him when that happened when she was raped, and like he like those memories are really painful, so he doesn't want to have that memory. And um but like she used to sing to him. This is the reason the Crawl Out of Love is the theme song for Al Haverick, where in my mind whenever I think of the series, like it came up in my playlist and I immediately thought of that series in the middle of our conversation is what just happened. um and like whenever I listen to it I imagine like it's a girl singing in the song, but like the idea of Crawl Out of Love, like everything about that is blended very beautifully with the idea. But basically, it feels like Al Haverick's story, even the rhythm of the song. But like, basically, he goes down this path of revenge. He meets a guy named Quip. Quip becomes his best friend. Quip's like a young version of himself, very foolish and innocent. Because like Al used to be this very innocent guy, and there's like a prophecy about him that's like, I think it's beware the beware the passionate heart sundered to rage or something like that. Like but it's more it's that's like the concept, but it's more the prophecy lays out the more innocent the heart you break, the more destructive they will become and the more dangerous they are. And Al is like the epitome of this because Al was like a hardworking dude, but his head was in the clouds, and he fell in love with this girl, and she used to sting to him, and like they used to have a very poetic relationship. But then he becomes like the hardest motherfucker in the story, basically. He meets this guy named Quip. He meets these villagers, and he's like he's very disjointed when you first read him, but he's following the path of these men, these guards from the capital that did this to his wife. And like his wife likes to remember him as this innocent good person, and he like as he keeps going down this path, he can't he remembers the song she used to sing to him, but as he keeps going, he starts forgetting the song and he starts forgetting her face. And he can't remember what she looks like anymore. And basically, I mean, his power is called the Black Rage. Like he goes into a berserker state and his eyes turn black, and his veins turn black as well, and they like surge out of his body, and he can't feel pain. And as long as his adrenaline is pumping, he can't be really killed. He won't bleed out. Like his blood like congeals. Um, but the reason I mentioned that I would have to explain the way the magic system works is like the way you get a power is your soul has to have been broken. That's why it's called the Siphon and Sunder legacy. Partially is your soul has to be broken by an idea, and then you siphon from that idea, like that. So if Rain, there is a guy who it's Rain, right, where like he had a memory of the rain. His village was in a valley, and these armies surrounded the valley, and the rain. There was a storm, and the rain drowned the valley. Like the villagers used to like they were really primitive. They used to like go into the mountains to get away from the floods, and the armies trapped them in the plains, and then the rain fucking killed them all. It drowned all of his people, and he's the only one who lived. So like for him, the rain when he hears the rain or sees the rain, he remembers that. So he's motivated by hate, so he hates the rain. Um, and I had a whole pattern as to how the powers worked, right? Like if your power, hate was always external. Like if your powers came from hate, you would physically create an effect. So if you hated fire, you could summon fire and shoot fire. But if it was by love, it was always intrinsic and it was always subtle. It was everything was reversed. Like hate was you controlled an external power. Love was you gave others an internal power. And then there's two more patterns to it, where there's like there's you give someone else an external power, which is one of the imperfected methods. And then there's what was the last one? You give someone else an external power, and then it's you have an internal power. And those are much more impure methods. If you're using those methods, you don't necessarily know what's motivating you. So you don't know what's going to happen to you, basically, which is what happens to Al. That's why I said I need to explain it. Like Al is like motivated by um
All right,
he
I'm gonna
thinks
give it
he's
a
drawing his power from
Okay.
hatred, but he's not, basically. And as he's drawing his power, that's why he's forgetting his wife. Is he's the thing he is drawing his power from is connection. He doesn't want to connect with people. And he doesn't know that though. So he like as he keeps going and the black rage gets stronger, he forgets his wife's face and it becomes a blur and he can't remember the song, and like it's very much like a tale of about a man achieving revenge at the expense of everything. I mean, he has his revenge, but his story ends with he has this guy with him named Quip who becomes like his best friend, and he like mentors Quip. And when he's following the villager the guardsmen, when he's tracking them, he finds Quip's village, and Quip was trying to train to become a warrior to protect his family. And they find out the guardsmen have been extorting them and beating the peasants there very brutally. And then Al like rallies this village to like come with him on this journey. Like so he has a couple hundred people behind him. Like, you know, at first the plan is to go to the capital and protest and demand justice for these people. But then it becomes very clear that there's some kind of conspiracy. Like they're not going to give you justice. That these men were tasked with doing this from like someone really high up, and they've been given leeway to do whatever they want. And then Al begins turning the villagers into like a militia. And in the end of the story, he kills all the people that were there, but the leader who did it, the main guy, what is his name? He's the brother of one of the other main characters in my story. Oh, what is his name? I don't remember his name. Interesting. What the fuck is his name? Ooh. What is his name?
Is this all the same world and the same story? Or are these different stories at this point?
Between what?
Between the original uh, world you were talking about and where we're at right now?
You want the one with the soul stones?
The one with the dragons and
Yeah, different worlds, man.
Lucardius.
Yeah, they're different.
Are they
That's
in the
my
same? Are they in the same universe?
Nah, they're completely different universes.
Okay.
Uh, yeah. Um, there's things that are inspired from the Souls, like the D&D world that I transferred into the novel idea. Like, Al Havrick was the name of a character in my D&D world, and I really loved the name. Um, I loved the name a lot. I mean, the name is like perfect. It's like it's the type of name that just sounds like what he is. Um, and the last name Havrick I really like too. It sounds like someone who would be either like really passionate and like vulnerable, or someone who would go on a quest for revenge, which is what he is. But no, this is a different world. This is a different world. This world works different magic system. The magic system in the old world was the Soul Stone one. The magic world for this one is um that if you bind your soul to a thing, basically you can't ever come in contact with it again. So like there are characters that are like in love with a girl, and like if you love the person, you can never see them again, but you gain the power to protect them, basically. Versus like if you know, conversely, if you're bound by hate, you have the power to destroy what you hate, but you can never come into contact with it, or it'll destroy you as well. There is a guy who does that in my story. There's one guy who does that in book 2, the way I thought it would map out. He wants to kill the man who killed his father, and like his friends beg him not to do it because he'll be forgotten and he'll die. And he's like resolved. He doesn't care. Like as he's getting closer to kill the guy, like his like skin is like turning into particles and like he's fading. And he says, "Fuck it," like, and he just does it. He kills the guy, and then he fades. Um, but yeah, it's different. But I'm not gonna tell you. There's a lot of stories I have in mind for the Siphon and Sunder legacy. I mean, the main thing is that Al Havrick is a pivotal character, and he dies at the end of book 1. Fundamentally, in not necessarily at the end. He dies in book 1. There's a lot of tricks involved with his death, but um, Al's cool. Um, but basically, it ends with he realizes at the end he's forgotten that he's drawing this power from um connection itself and his memory of his wife, and he pretty much knows he's forgotten her at the very end. Like the last guy he wants to kill is like the hardest to kill. He has a power as well. The other guys they killed didn't have powers. They're just really strong. And they're really formidable warriors. But the last guy is like an elite warrior used for covert conspiratorial work on behalf of like the leadership of the kingdoms. And um his power I think is called Black Steel or something like that. Like um whenever he is like experiences pain, like his body basically gains an understanding of what happened to it as if he encountered it like 100-fold. So like if you punch him in the face and like break his jaw and knock him down, it's as if he experienced that 100 times. So like
Jesus Christ.
yeah, so it hurts more, but he also knows you won't be able to hit him again. His jaw will become solid because it'll like mend, and he'll um he'll have he in his mind it will be as though he blocked that hit 100 times. Um, so like it's like the perfect match for someone who's got like a rage that like makes them attack recklessly that they can't stop attacking, because as he attacks the guy in the final battle, the guy just becomes like indestructible almost. But in the end, like the guy's in a fortress. I mean, the guy like runs from Al and his people chasing him, and the fortress city is like huge. It's got an army, and like they know they can't win a battle. Like Al knows if they siege the castle that they're all gonna die. And then at the same time, before he decides what to do, he realizes that he's been drawing his power from his wife's memory, that he's been forgetting her. And he's pretty much forgotten her almost entirely. Like her face is like a blur, a color, a blurry color. He can't remember the song. He remembers hearing it like the barely a hum of the song. He has no memory of the words or how it made him feel, and he's like completely lost himself. And then he decides, because he's already given up the memory of his wife, that he has to kill this guy because he already gave up everything else. But then he decides to convince the people of the town to attack the walls of the city so that he can sneak in. Like they'll be his distraction, and then he sneaks into the castle. Um, and then at the final part, he fights his way to the top of the keep, the tower where the guy is, and they're fighting on top of the tower. And he keeps attacking him in his blood rage state, and eventually the guy becomes like basically indestructible because he almost kills the guy like 7 times, and the guy at that point is like so fucking insurmountable that, everything that worked, Owl's rage just keeps going higher and higher to the point that he becomes like this mindless berserking, foaming at the mouth animal. And the guy's still standing because, you know it's mainly his muscle memory. It's his muscle memory and his body. Like if something happens to him, his muscles strengthen to counteract whatever happened, as if he experienced it 100-fold, and his muscle memory also increases. So it's not completely limitless. Um, like it wouldn't work against like if someone shot fire at him, it wouldn't work because it's not a physical force. But all Owl can do is become psychotically strong with a berserker rage and dull his pain and become faster. So eventually, like at the end of the battle, the way it ends is Owl basically loses to this guy that did this to his wife, and then as like he can't draw on the berserker rage anymore, and the blackness from his eyes like starts fading, and then he's on top of the tower, and he sees all the people that trusted him get slaughtered, and like it's all for nothing. Like he sacrificed the people that believed in him, the villagers, and his best friend that he meets along the way named Quip, and they all die like horribly. And they're getting slaughtered outside the city walls, and then they try to run away, and the knights are like running them down and spearing them and cutting their heads off. And then like at the same time, Al's like the black rage is no longer useful for him. Like he cannot draw on the black rage anymore. And then this guy like makes him watch as everyone gets slaughtered. He's like, I'm gonna fucking kill you now. That's not where Owl dies, but that's how his quest for revenge ends at the end of the day, is he fails.
His quest for revenge gets shoved up his ass.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, but I mean, it's like very brutal. I mean, like what happened to us, because it is like a very brutal, like graphic rape scene. I mean, it's like inspired by Berserk partially. Like one of the knights like stabs out in the leg, and there's a spear pinning him to the ground, and they like hold him down.
Wait, does he get raped as a man?
No, his wife gets raped in front of him,
okay.
But he's like 2 feet from her, and he's like forced to watch, and then they kill her.
Christ.
They rape her to death, and then they leave, and then this is what like breaks his personality, and that's like when the black rage begins forming. And he thinks that when he's drawing on it, that it's his hatred and his desire to kill these people, but at the same time throughout the story, he doesn't like thinking of his wife. Like he tries to calm his heart with the song she used to sing, but then anytime he remembers it, he remembers what happened to her, and then he as he keeps going, he's dulling his memory of her. Like he forgets her face, he forgets the song that she used to sing to him, and it's because he's not drawing. He thinks he's drawing his power from hatred and a desire for revenge, but he's drawing his power from a desire to dull the pain of what happened, not from the power to kill. And that's why he fails in the end, is because in the end, his hatred isn't enough. Once he's completely forgotten and lost his connection to everyone around him, and the people outside the walls get slaughtered, he can't draw on the power of the black rage anymore.
Take a look at my stream real quick. Just look how white I look on camera. It's crazy. Like my lighting is better than it was, but now it's to the point where it's like reflecting off my face too much, and I look so white. It's like, I don't know. It's like I'm glowing.
So yeah, you're white, dude.
Yeah.
You're white as shit. Yeah. God damn.
It's funny. I don't
Yeah,
know what to do about it because like I got it to the point where my green screen
dude.
doesn't really bleed through anymore. It does like a little bit, but now it's like too much light on my face, and I need to figure out how to light up my green screen and not light up my freaking face so much.
um, I don't know, man. I don't have any wisdom for you in that regard. But yeah, I gotta get good at writing. That's why I'm writing these short stories. So,
You already sound good at writing, man.
well, my ideas are really good because that's like I'm good at interpreting why the ideas come to me and figuring out where they go. But in terms of like writing, like, word choosing the perfect word in each part of the sentence, I'm not good enough at that yet. I can't bring the ideas to life in the perfect way. So that's why I got to read more and write more. So I just got to stay on the path and stop being a lazy piece of shit. That'll do it if I can just do that. But I do appreciate it, man. Thank you. It goes a long way to hear that type of encouragement. Uh, but yeah, honestly, the Blood Throne idea turned into something very different too. Like the Blood Throne idea was like my first story I thought about to completion, and it's awesome. They're
Oh,
all
dude,
fantasies. I mean,
I just found this thing that I can make you a guest star.
a guest star.
I'm just clicking it just to see what it's all about. Guest star only supports Chrome for now. We are expanding access to more browsers soon. Ah, dude, I hate Chrome. If you go live, I'll raid you with 2 viewers.
Really? You'll raid me with 2 viewers. Well, I'm not gonna be gaming, so
Oh
I don't know
yeah,
what I would do.
yeah,
I could like talk,
yeah.
like, "Hey guys, want to watch porn together?" And just
No, dude.
stream that. Like,
That is. Oh, wait a second. Did I screw up? Hold on. Is this? Why is that like that? Oh, okay. Okay. We're good there. We're good there.
Yeah, but the reason I explained the magic system is because, like, remember how I said your soul can never come into contact with the thing again, or else it'll destroy you. The
Uh,
thing,
I believe I did hear you say that. Yes.
so Al, because he's drawing his power from connection and he's trying to break his connection, he has like an aversion to connection. If he ever makes a real connection again, it might destroy him, or he'd have to give
What's
up the
this?
power.
I finally figured out how to get my camera to look like a mirror because it was always backwards before. So when I would raise my right hand, it would show up on like the left side of the screen, and now that's not the case. Now it's like a mirror. It's nice. Nice. Ah. Your novels or your world or whatever, it sounds interesting enough that I would consider reading it as a book.
Yeah,
And
if I
I
can keep it
don't
there, I
I
think it'll be
don't
good.
read a lot of books. I should read like a fuck ton more books.
Yeah, if I can get it there, man, it'll be cool. I just gotta write more all the time. I mean, I told my buddy Patrick about this, and he was like, "You gotta write this shit, dude." He was
You
like, "It's like
gotta
I'm listening
write
to you
this shit.
describe." Because I talked to him about Stormlight Archive when I read it, and he's like, "It's like you're talking to me about a real book right now." I'm like, "I just don't know how to get there, dude." I think I gotta just keep writing, dude. It's just gonna be so much work. That's all.
Gotta
It just
flesh it
sucks.
out.
I gotta get good at writing. That's what it is, man. I need to stop listening to music when I write and just write in silence and really think about why I write the way I write and what I'm doing. But I got to read a lot more too to get better at
I
writing. I
wonder.
need to-
I wrote a short story on a computer, and I wonder if it's this one. If it's not, that would suck. It's like your classic run of the mill story about like a dude that has to like go crazy to save the day, basically.
Go crazy to save the day. Nice, I like it.
Like on some like Liam Neeson level shit.
Yeah.
Hold on. Um, I just want to see my file folder. Art normal. No, normal is unavailable. If the location is on the PC, make sure the device or. Huh. That's scoozy.
Uzi.
That's scoozy. I don't know if you heard me let out that hellacious burp. But
Hellacious. Well, I gotta Google what the fuck that means now. Hellacious.
hellacious?
Yeah. Is that even a real fucking word?
Yeah.
Extremely amusing. Boisterous and merry. Alright. Oh, that's hilarious. The fuck? You changed it to hilarious? No. How do I spell that?
I believe it's HELLACIOUS.
HELLICAUS?
It's ACIOUS.
Oh, very great, bad, or overwhelming. Nice. Nice word to hold on to. Huh. But yeah, I mean, the only reason I'm writing the D&D short stories is to get better at writing, right? I've got to give myself something to move in the right direction. So the way they work, right, is whenever the players find like threads of fate connected to an object, it'll turn into a vision, and the vision becomes the short story of the past of what happened. And that's what the short stories I was writing are. So gotta write a fuckload of them. Yeah, there's a song called "Crawl Out of Love" by Annika Wells, or maybe the artist is called Elenium. It features a singer called Annika Wells. That song, it's like I think of the Siphon and Sunder Legacy as soon as I hear it. But the Siphon and Sunder Legacy is pretty cool. That one's like very epic. It's way more epic than my other ones. I mean, the first book is like not that epic, right? But it gets epic as fuck.
Yeah, I think that short story was on a different PC, unfortunately.
You just find like a pornographic novel you wrote. You're like, what the fuck? You
It's
caressed
not.
with thy
It's not.
aggressive.
There's nothing sexual that happens
She
in it.
moaned. Yeah. But I do like writing. I just gotta stop. I gotta get away from my computer more, man. The only reason I'm at my computer is because I like being on Discord with people, really. But then I
Yeah.
want to listen to music once I'm here. I like listening to music to come up with ideas. I need to like write with no music though. I'd be way better if I did. So I got to do that at least once tonight, man. I just sit down for like an hour and write with no music. But because like the ideas just come to my brain automatically with the music. I just feel the music and I'm like, yes, yes, and then it's just like, bam. You know, I came up with those. I came up with all 19 of those story ideas within like, except for like the first, like except for like 5 of them or 4 of them that I had already started in the past, like years ago. I came up with all 19 of them within like half an hour. I was yes, this. But writing it is a different animal, man. Writing it is hard. But I'll get there. I do believe I have faith that I can do that. That I can get this done.
I just found like 2 documents on my computer that can't be deleted and can't be opened. So it makes me think they're like a virus.
What are they called?
111111 and dot.
Highly unusual.
An unexpected error is keeping you from deleting. Why can't I delete this? What the fuck? Just delete the fucking thing. Both of them are saying that they can't be deleted. Skip. Delete. Oh, looks like I'm gonna have to buy a new PC. They're rich text documents, so they very well could be something that I wrote, but I don't know why they would have become corrupted over time.
Porn.
Porn? I don't watch porn on my computer.
Porn.
That's it. It's fucking porn. You know, that's fucked up, dude, because it just made me think of that song where the kid's like, it's corn. A big lump with knobs. It has the juice. It has the juice. Can't imagine a more beautiful thing. It's corn.
It's corn.
I can tell you all about it. Look at that thing. I forget the end, but it's corn. It has the juice. Can't imagine a more beautiful thing. It's corn. Alrighty. It's corn. A big lump with knobs. It has the juice. See, now I've gone and done it, done and gone it, and gone and done it. There we go.
Hi.
Wait, is that Troy?
Yeah, today.
Troy.
Oh, I'm live right now, Troy.
Oh,
He's he's giving a class on masturbation on Twitch.
And this is my masterclass.
My master class. So you don't want to start off too fast, you know. You want to give yourself time to let the imagination do its job. You missed it, Troy. I just got done explaining to Pete, well, not all of my shit, but at least a large plethora of my fantasy worlds that I intend to write one day, and my main D&D world, because I've been writing short stories that are in the D&D world.
Nice.
Yeah, good times, good times.
So,
What are you up to?
I'm just chilling. I thought about swimming today, but I was like, nah, I just want to go home and chill.
You gotta fucking listen to what's his name? Goggins.
I know. I am.
Stay hard, Troy. Stay hard. I love one of his videos. The top comments like his mom. The mom gives birth to a young or a baby Goggins. Goggins looks up at the doctor, looks up at her, says, "Fuck that shit. Do that shit again." Crawls up in there, back in there, says, "Stay hard." Fucking hilarious.
No.
This is the beginning of our podcast, Troy.
Okay. Actually, Jeremy, I know I texted you like randomly. I texted you literally as I was going to bed.
Yeah, I texted you back. Did you get it?
Did I? I don't think so. Let me double check.
Let me check too. It wasn't. I don't think it was until.
Oh,
like,
okay. Yep, you did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Just because that conversation was like, I feel like people probably would have at least listened for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
That was actually being recorded.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I have conversations like this that are every once in a while. I mean, the podcast idea truly isn't my original idea. Like, so I think what I want to do is be a writer, and that's the thing that when I really think about it, like the fantasy world ideas and the fantasy ideas I have to come to me, I've received like very like flattering compliments on like how authentically good they sound and everything, and not from like sycophantic people, from people that have a tendency to be dicks to me, if anything. um, I'm not talking about you right now, Pete, because Pete did just compliment the one idea as well. Like Gosner, for example, is a good example. There was a lot of animosity there, but even Gosner was like, "Yeah, that shit sounds good, dude." But I also acknowledge that like I want to try a bunch of creative things. You know what I mean? Like I want to. I mean, hell, if I really succeeded in one of them, I'd probably try another one anyway. You know what I mean? I would want to see which ones I could be best at. But the podcast idea wasn't even really originally my idea. It's just that throughout my life, people have brought it up time and time again in one form or another. Whether it's like someone saying, when I was younger and worked in fast food, they were like in the drive, people were like, "Man, you've got a good voice. You should do something. You could probably make money with it." And I was like, "All right." That occurred a couple times throughout my life, and then the podcast idea has been recommended to me at certain points in my life when I've been like very enthralled in a passionate conversation, rambling about it. I just got to get my fucking shit together, and I want to try the podcast thing, but like honestly, I find myself writing too, because I have to do something creative, and I can't do a podcast alone right now, and I don't have the capital to get it going, so I'm just gonna keep writing, and that's a useful skill regardless. Write a script.
You know what I might do, and I'll probably regret it.
What's that?
I might give a certain show a chance, another chance.
A certain show, another chance, huh? What show is that?
You know what it is.
Rings of Power.
Fuck no, absolutely not.
Yeah, I'm never giving that a chance.
I watched it, but I nearly tapped out the fucking warg that looked like fucking Wile E. Coyote. Like, get the fuck out of here with that shit. I actually have friends who defend that show, and I'm torn.
What's the show?
Okay, so I might give The Last Kingdom a chance, another chance.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can tell that the writing shifted chaotically, like the concluding season, and the one leading up to it. Like the writing shifted, and a lot of the foreshadowing kind of fell through, but it's still good. Like you can tell they're struggling, and I think that was because the pandemic. Their filming and everything got fucked up, so they moved things around. But it was good. I mean, it was very entertaining and good throughout it. I really loved The Last Kingdom, though. I thought it was just the idea of a person who is half of, half Saxon, half Dane being alive during that period, kind of torn between two paths and struggling to walk a fine line is a
Yep.
nice concept.
You know he's not torn by
What's that?
his name.
No, he's not torn
Did
by
you
that.
did you know that he is Uhtred, son of Uhtred, son of Uhtred of Uhtred of Uhtred of Bennerberg?
Yeah, I
Did
knew he
did
was son
you
of Uhtred. Uhtred,
did
son of Uhtred.
did you know that? Because I don't think he said it. I think he only said it once in like the first episode, never again.
Uhtred. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not even his real name. That's the funny thing. He's actually not. He's not Uhtred.
Does one thing and he doesn't even do it well.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I said with the foreshadowing. Like, I think a big part of his identity was that I have to read the novels. The novels that are based on is called the Saxon Stories. I have the first one. Um, I'd like to read all of them because it is different. It spans many years and there's many time skips between the books apparently. But I think the reason they kept reiterating that is that Uhtred
One
is
sec.
like,
I just
huh?
need to grab my my pillow.
I will be right back. I am back. We're continuing the conversation. We have been joined by Troy, and also known as Mr. Yort, and Jer is still there, who is also known as Iron Victory. So, thanks for being here. All right. So,
Then self and other. And there's 4 different types of people that can do it. And there's 2 pure forms, which is like hate and love. And then there's 2 impure forms, which I have to create names for. And I had a list of names for them. I have to go in the notes to find them. And there are ancient orders of warriors that actually access these abilities. And they will not let you access the abilities if you access it in one of the impure forms. They view the impure, those who access it in an impure way, as a major threat, and they are. You guys are being patient because I know you don't. Nothing I've said is cool at all. This is all just rambling at this point. But the
I just
so like
watching your mouth work.
thank you, Troy.
I love it.
watching
I
work,
love
too.
it, man. I love it when Jared
I
just
love
talks for like 3 hours but doesn't let me say anything.
God damn it! He's trying to make me feel bad about it. And I'm like, son of a bitch. Well, I'm letting you say something now, aren't I? Shit.
Yeah.
But so what ends up happening, right, is like, let's say I told Pete in one of the prologue chapters that like there's a guy who like makes the sky is completely open, so there's no chance of rain. But there's this guy who makes a pavilion, and the way it works is whatever the thing that binds your soul is, if you ever come in contact with it again, you will be destroyed. Your soul, because that fracture in your soul exists, it'll shatter if you come into contact with it. So there's a guy who hates the rain, and he hates the rain because he was part of a primitive village that lived in a valley. An army surrounded the valley, and whenever it would flood, the villagers would run into the mountains. But an army blocked the valley off and let them in so they couldn't escape, so they all drowned, and he was the only survivor. So he associates that with the rain, and like he hates the rain. And so I said there was a pattern to it. So if you get your powers from hate, it is. I thought about like what way that pattern would be that would be most selfish that reflected hate, and it's like very much how I feel. People who are motivated by anger tend to be like very capable in the short term, athletically or what have you. It's like they're very motivated. So like hate would be an external power wielded by you. So it would be on this axis of self or other. It's self. You wield the power directly, and then on external, internal, it's external. It would be an external power. So if you're the guy who's bound by like hatred of the rain, could actually summon like rain or water. But it's not true rain. Like it's like an echo of the rain. But if he ever actually encounters the rain in the real world again, he'll shatter. His soul will be destroyed. And there are this group of hunters who hunt these guys who bring all who who make it their business to hunt these people who sunder their soul this way religiously. They think it's like an abomination. And then so love's the opposite. Love is internal and other. So like a person whose power is drawn from love would have a effect on people intrinsically in a way they might not be aware of it, and they won't be able to affect themselves with it, only the people around them. And then the other 2 versions are there's an external other, which is basically like I codenamed it like the drug dealer. It's like you give someone else the external power you wish you had, but you can't use it directly. And then there's the one where it's an internal power, which is an internal self power, basically. So like the Everheart, I told you who Al Havik was, right, Pete? Al Havik would be his power is the Black Rage. Black Rage would be a corrupted, one of the 2 corrupt forms. It's internal self. So he has the ability to go into this, make his veins turn black, his eyes turn black, go into this like Black Rage, and his adrenaline is basically able to amp itself up infinitely, insofar as he's able to draw from whatever this source of his power is spiritually. But I told you how that ends. The Everheart is this guy with a mask, and he is the story is going to be told in a way that is actually not structured linearly. Like there'll actually be a caveat in the beginning of the story from the narrator that like these events were gathered from like the echoes of memory and the echoes of time, and the thread. None know how the threads fit. Basically, something along those lines. Like that, the narrator will warn you that the story is not necessarily linear as you read it, and it won't be linear. It will be designed to seem linear intentionally, but it is in fact not linear. And at the end, it'll be very clear that it isn't. But the Everheart is this guy who wears a white mask and he never reveals who he is. And his power, called the Everheart, basically makes it so people harmonize. So like their connection to each other increases. So like they will become. It's basically like the ultimate power if you were going to be a general in some sense. I mean, it has a real useful military application. Like people form a really strong sense of trust and bond with each other. Their emotions are amplified, and then their ability to work as one is increased. So they basically harmonize with one another. Their sense of connection is amplified in every sense. But because the sense of since connection is where the Everheart is drawing his power from, if he ever experienced connection himself, he would sunder himself and be destroyed. So the Everheart, like everyone looks at him as if he is like this. He speaks poetically all the time, and everyone looks at him as if he's like this passionate guy, and they view him as like this, this symbol of purity and passion. But in reality, he's like completely broken. He's like he actually can't feel the shit he espouses. So his quotes often hint at this. And I told Pete a second ago that the Everheart is actually Al Haverick, who I told you who Al Haverick was. I'll save Troy the earful. But all of this was I was looking at like epigraph quotes and quote ideas I had for him when I was just kind of like free flow brainstorming the character. And there's a line in the quote. I wrote this before the fourth book of Stormlight Archive came out. I think came up with this when I had only read the second book, and maybe right before the third book came out. And I'm gonna read this quote, and you'll know what the problem is right away, Troy. It'll be hilarious. All right. I think this quote is him speaking to the main character. And actually, Pete, I told you if I ever wrote what my pen name would be. The main character of this story is named Julius Evelar. As of now, it might change. So my pen name would actually be the same as the main characters. But the quote is, first you must learn. He's teaching the main character how to access the harmony, the ability of the Everheart, how to like synchronize the people, and basically what ends up happening with that power is like because the soldiers' sense of connection with each other is so strong and they're so bound by love and connection, they can automatically like subconsciously be aware of what every member of the unit is doing, and they can work as in perfect cohesion, and they're also motivated like to fight for each other with an insanely intensified level of passion, right? They'll each take like insane risks to like block arrows for each other, but because they're all doing it, they work in harmony and no one ends up dying. It's very counterintuitive power. If only one person had the power, they'd be dead in like 10 seconds. So he's teaching the main character of the story, who in the main character of my story is actually going to have the least screen time of anyone. He's in some ways the least important, but he's telling him how to access it, and the way he does it first is by teaching them each of the stances that they use in the fighting formation literally, and then he's talking to him about integrating the power, but he's also speaking poetically and like metaphorically to the guy too. So the quote is, first you must learn each of the stances and its accompanying forms. You must feel the sunder of victory and the siphoning of defeat. But in time the wisest learn that there is an ebb and flow, a rhythm to war. And just as the listener can anticipate a song's conclusion, a warrior's heart can feel the tide of defeat. That's the quote. But the rhythm of war part's gotta go now. It's gotta go, Troy. Son of a bitch.
You know what my
God.
response is?
What's your response?
Stop, thief!
Yeah, you violated the law.
No one violates the law on my watch.
Criminal scum.
My response would be, well, I did it. So that didn't really pan out, did it? I think you're saying your sight's a little too high.
What? The guard?
Yeah, like, no one's gonna break the law. Then you don't have a job, my dude.
That's true.
What about your quotas?
We are all a vein in the world's heartbeat, each a tune in the symphony of its drum. Our enemies would seek to shatter the arbor.
What is
the symphony? Huh?
Sounds like a synonym is needed for rhythm.
Yeah.
Jive?
It was perfect though. I love
Jive?
that. Out of all the quotes I'm rereading, because I wrote this years ago, that one is my favorite one. When he's teaching him the stances.
But jive? Why not jive?
A jive to war.
Hacking and whacking and smacking.
We are all a vein in the world's heartbeat, each attuned to the symphony of her drum. Our enemies would seek to shatter the arbor, to let the symphony of life be dictated by the one who clamors the loudest, who hits the hardest. But we will show them the simple truth that they have long forgotten, that we are one. That's a pretty good one. Man, the Everheart is fun to write because he always speaks in poems, essentially. But sometimes he's pretty direct. The first one, think what you will, but remember my fostered son. Honest men do not wear masks. He's obvious. He's talking about himself because he wears the mask. Very much like the idea of like them hinting at Vivek is not honest in Morrowind, that all poets are liars. There's a trace of that in this. I don't think it was conscious, but it's definitely there. I know not what my power is bound to. I cannot feel it. If I did, I would cease to be. Therein lies the danger of being a Tavara. You cannot trust me. That one's whatever.
Dun, 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 dun. Hey,
I'm
Pete,
one of the impure.
What's up?
I know power comes from.
how was your day?
Good.
How many times have you jerked off today, Pete?
None.
Are you lying to me?
No.
Pete is.
That was. Did you hear the length of that silence, Troy? I think he's jerked off at least once today.
I think you're wrong.
You think I'm wrong?
I think you're wrong.
Come on, Pete.
I don't think
none?
Pete-
0 times?
0 times.
All right. I
Dude,
believe you then.
Dude,
It would be a silly thing to lie about. I mean, shit.
so Jared, it's still November.
I failed in November. I'm gonna have to move that quest to. I guess I should just not do it the rest of the month. That's a good goal. Solid. I haven't done it in I think 2 days, maybe only 1 day right now. I've like my rate of doing it is like greatly reduced. It's a thing. I've like consciously actually focused on like I am the type of person who will like do it like addictively. Like I'll do it like my whole life I would do it like 5 times a day. Like same thing with sex. Like if I was like whenever I was dating a chick and we'd fuck like 10 times. Like we would fuck until there was like, you know, there was nothing left in the tank.
You know what I think, Jeremy?
What do you think, Troy?
I think we should, because do you
Sign me
remember
up, Troy.
do you remember the date that you failed?
The date that I failed?
Yeah, no.
Well, I didn't set out to do November. I kind of like I was like, oh, it's November. Oh no, and then I was like, oh no, not November, and I was in the middle of November. I had been like trying to do it less and less in general, regardless of the no, not November thing. But the times I did it recently, I wouldn't say I failed. I made a conscious decision to do it. I'm mainly basing it off of like typically what'll happen is I'll see a chick or I'll see a thing or I have a very wild imagination. I'll imagine a thing tangentially related to a thing I see or do in a game or in a place or with a person, and I'll imagine something hot, and I'm like, oh god, now I gotta go do this. And then like I'm measuring my failure based upon the idea of like, am I consciously deciding to do this, and did it like feel good, and was it healthy, or like am I not? But fuck it, I think I will not do it. I mean, I did it 2 days ago, but like when I did it 2 days ago, it was very much
All
like.
right, so I got the point. The 20th. So you know what that means, Jared? You can masturbate as much as you want the rest of the month because next month it's December and it's Destroy Your Dick December.
Oh god.
The amount of days. Hold on, no, it's not that bad. So the amount of days you fail to comply with No Nut November are the amount of times you need to jerk off every day for December.
Violently. Dude, I have definitely participated in Destroy Your Dick December throughout my life, man. I have definitely done it. I have done that shit till it's bled. No lie.
What the fuck?
I have.
Like you nutted
you know
blood? You nutted blood?
No,
just
no,
like
Oh.
the friction and chafing.
Yeah, well,
Friction,
everyone's
yeah.
done that.
But have you done it after it bled again?
Yes,
No,
I
fuck
haven't.
no.
I have.
Just saying that makes my pee invert.
Yeah. It's you have to like use it. Yes, I've done it. That's a problem. That means you have a problem if you do that. I've done that.
I've done that as well.
Yeah, done that multiple times. Not proud of it. There was one time where my dick had like been wounded from jerking off, and I swear to God, I fucked this bitch and her pussy healed me. Dead ass. Like
I
it did.
believe it.
Like afterwards, I was like, oh, the wound's gone. I was like, oh, cool. It was super fucking strange.
Sounds like you should marry that girl. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's a cunt. Gotta marry her anyway. Yeah, she's a bitch. I gotta marry her anyway. My family's Italian. I gotta marry her, especially. Yeah, she's mean to me, but I gotta marry her anyway. Yeah, I just saved a bunch of people. Welcome to my tower, Master Chief.
Man, all of the Everhart quotes are pretty good. Do I have other quotes hidden in this fucking notebook? See, I'm so chaotic, I'll just stumble upon my own shit because I randomly open up pages and start writing. I don't try to organize the notebook at all. Random D&D notes. MTG deck lists. All kinds of fucking shit in here, man. You name it. It's in here.
No, damn it. Okay, it wasn't that bad. I think they made it so that Marines can't die from like a vehicle running them over. We're not running them over. That can definitely kill them, but from like just flipping, we need to flip a vehicle.
Follow your heart, Massaria, but do not let it lead you. Yeah, Everheart's fun. I don't remember what the idea for the whole vein in the world's heartbeat is, but I like that quote, mainly because I like the part where he says they're trying to shatter the arbor. That's not something that's like actually in my vernacular
Oh
right
my
now.
god, you fools. Stop following me directly. I'm gonna be in the thick of it. Just give me support fire. Ah, fuck.
A shady garden
It doesn't
alcove.
matter if you're a super soldier gentleman. They're you're still gonna lose men. Lose a lot of dudes.
Damn, that is a good fucking quote. I feel like it's a good quote. Sometimes, whenever I write like my short stories in actuality, there's so much of it that I'm like, this sucks. I have to rewrite it. But this, I think I'm good at writing. I don't know. Maybe I don't normally feel like I'm good at writing quotes, but I must have been in the right place at the right time when I wrote this shit.
Die, 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 die.
I mean, obviously it helps that I'm listening to like epic instrumental music too. Everything sounds cooler when you're reading it with that in the background. But still. Key to enlightenment is to remember that each man feels just as you do, yet the stories we tell ourselves to explain or justify our weakness blind us to the truth. The guy asked what the truth is, that we are all one. Yeah, whatever. It's okay. We tell every lie to ourselves first. Yeah, Everhart's cool, man. I don't remember when the fuck I came up with the idea for him. He was pretty early on, though. He might have even been the first character I thought of in this whole thing. I think it was Al Havrick, though. Who
So
knows?
this is legendary. They literally throw two chieftains at you right at the start. Ah, fuck.
There are moments when I wonder if I'm failing, that
escaped
perhaps the
again.
lessons I teach can only be lived, not uttered.
Can you hear me?
No!
I can hear you.
Cool.
Yeah, man, this is pretty good. I like this. I should like totally put this somewhere. It's like in the middle of this notebook where I may never find it again. Put like a big ass. Bold the page in front of it like 5 times in a row so it juts out super hard.
You gentlemen want to become better as individuals?
I feel like you're gonna suggest something that is obtuse, Troy. What is your suggestion?
Become Jewish.
Oh God, Troy. You did suggest something obtuse.
Wait, what? You don't want to be Jewish?
No, I don't.
Do you not
My-
like Jew? So what you're saying is
My ex really tried to get me to become Jewish pretty hard because
really?
I've dated 2 Jewish women.
How were they?
They're good. They're the best women I've encountered. But I don't like the dogmatic nature. There's only thing I don't like about. I like the religion. I think the Jewish faith is actually a very superior faith. Um,
Especially
for
when you're splunking in it.
well, even out that aside, like I think, like a big thing that I spent a lot of Jewish holidays with my ex and whatever the fuck it's called, Passover. You know, the whole, which is like when the Prince of Egypt story happens. It's called Passover because they mark the door with the blood of the lamb, and then the thing will pass over their doors and only come after the Egyptians. There was a lot of they read the English translations of a lot of the texts in terms of incorporating me into it, and there's a big emphasis in Judaism that no matter what happens to you, you're a people that you don't resort to violence, that you will be better than them and transcend them, and that they will curse themselves with their own actions. I think that fundamental like axiom makes the faith very superior. I also think that the other thing that within the faith that tends to make people in it very impressive is that there's a lot of knowledge involved in it. There's a whole, for one thing, you reading it in Hebrew is a big thing. Like there's a whole culture devoted to that. Like so, you're automatically intrinsically encouraging people to learn a second language within the faith, and it's a very hard language to learn. And then you have to learn a lot of shit in that religion. There's a lot of holidays. I mean, it's not like, you know, other religions where there's like barely any holidays. It's like in Judaism there are like 50 holidays throughout the year, and there's different segregations as to like how orthodoxy is to which what number of them you practice. But even if you're on like one of the looser ends, you're still celebrating like 15 holidays a year, and each of those holidays has a whole ritual to it and a knowledge and a history, and like there's a lot of knowledge involved in the religion in terms of the how to practice it. And so I think both in terms of like encouraging participants in the religion to be intelligent, by virtue of like the amount of the work that goes into it, it's superior in that regard. But I do think like the axiom of never resorting to violence and always transcending violence being like the thread that runs throughout the religion, that is a very, very true thing that I've encountered in my life and feel is true. I think that's like I think the closer you are to that idea, the more correct you are. And I think that that is a thing that Judaism has got in spades over a lot of other religions. And it's not like it's not been tried and tested, you know what I mean? Like between the slavery in Egypt and the Holocaust, and it's like the fact that you have this group of people that are consistently getting fucked, and one of the axioms of their faith is no matter how hard they fuck you, we're not going to resort to fucking them back because we're going to be better. It's like, yes, that is good. That is very good. It's like a very superior way of thinking morally. I don't know.
I think it's incompatible with BDSM, but otherwise I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, it's pretty well. I mean, it depends on which side of the BDSM you're on. You know what I mean? It might be compatible with BDSM. You just can't. You can't be the dom. You can't be the dom and do it. You have to be the sub. Rise above what he's doing to you. But yeah, I don't know.
I think to get revenge, you should back it up.
Oh God. Yeah, but the only thing my ex really tried to push the Judaism thing towards me really hard and encourage it, and she's encouraged other people to become Jewish in the past, and I really don't have any. The only thing I don't like about Judaism is there is a real prideful sense among the participants in it that can be blinding. Like one of the only things me and my girl would argue about was she would talk, when it came to Judaism and talking about tangentially related topics, she'd be like, oh, she very much had this air about her where my opinion was inferior because I had less exposure to an idea. But I am of the belief that, like, yes, the more exposure to an idea you have, the more knowledge you have of the minutia intrinsic to it, and that there is more knowledge to be had there. But also, there are some ideas that um, your bias increases too. There are some ideas that having no exposure to them gives you a sense of objective clarity. And I think that's why no matter how much you know about a topic, you should always be curious to listen to someone who's truly ignorant, because that objective sense of that objectivity that comes with no exposure and that lack of bias and that innocence, there is a knowledge there that you have to forfeit insofar as you gain knowledge through exposure, like deep exposure. And
Mhm.
no, that was pretty much it.
I apologize. It's just something came to mind. You know what you should have done to
What should I have
what you should have done is gone, baby, I've joined a Jewish organization. She'd go like, oh, honey, what? And you should have gone, Jews for Jesus.
Yeah, she really didn't like it when I used the term Judeo-Christian. I was like, come on, are you serious? I was like, those ideas are clearly linkable and have a large degree of overlap. And it's like, I get it. I'm not trying to say... I know you want Judaism to be completely distinct, but I think in terms of, like, the suppositions, the cultural suppositions underneath the ideas of Christianity and Judaism are very similar. Like, they're 89% similar. So the term Judeo-Christian, there's merit in it existing, you know what I mean? There's merit in having a phrase that says, hey, let's look at the people, these two groups together, and look at how they influence cultures at large. And just as there's merit in looking at them separately, too, but she very much was of the mindset that she hated that terminology existed. And I was like, you're whack. You're whack.
I would have just told her that, look, Christianity is, not the first entry canonically, but Judaism is the prequel.
Like, look, sometimes the sequel's better than the prequel. You gotta admit.
I mean, let's be honest. Moses is kind of sexy, but Jesus is sexy AF. You know what I mean? Like,
that's true.
I mean,
her one friend we used to hang out with was studying to become a pastor. No, I don't think pastor is the right word.
A rabbi girl?
Yes, a rabbi. And
I didn't realize that was a thing. I guess not for
No,
Orthodox.
my ex wasn't becoming a rabbi. Her friend that we used to hang out with, his name was Trent.
Oh,
he was going to school
man.
to become a rabbi, and he's the one who, like, read the text in English and he could read Hebrew, and, like, they did all the rituals. And honestly, he was even more severe than her. He was like, if you brought up Jesus, he was like, yeah, Jesus was kind of a schmuck. I was like, dude, how do you presume to know that? Where's your sense of, like, this is a thing I'm reading from a fucking really long time ago. Maybe Jesus was a cool guy, like, come on. Like, even if it's written in your book and your text, which it isn't, but even if it was written that, like, yeah, Jesus is a schmuck, it's like, at what point do you just kind of say, yeah, there's no credence to that?
That level of bias is kind of, stands out.
Yeah. I would have just brought up the Christian Jewish scoreboard and just dropped the mic and walked away.
That wouldn't have gone well.
Probably not.
Yeah, well, who conquered the world? Not you. Although, depends on who you ask.
Why don't we ask Kanye?
Kanye! I saw a clip of him today. It was like someone was asking questions and everyone was like, do you regret saying what you said? And he had a chart of, like... Have you seen the moment with the chart where he's like, all the blocks in red are Jewish people in charge of companies, and it was like the whole fucking chart was almost entirely red.
Here's the thing. He's factually, as far as, like, the raw data, not incorrect.
Yeah, I mean, that's it.
I
don't think the conclusion of the conspiracy is correct. I think... I
agree, yeah. No, the conclusion is dumb, but the factual numbers are correct. I just think it's, when you have a culture where they were quite... I think it's a multitude of things. I think the most, like, to me, transparent, obvious one is when you have a culture where they were known as being money lenders and this and that. It's gonna foster a culture that people are just gonna be drawn to certain industries later on, post-industrial revolution. And obviously, not every fucking Jewish motherfucker is a fucking a banker, but I think you get the point I'm trying to make.
My ex was an accountant.
Culturally, they're gonna be drawn to other things.
Yeah.
That coupled with a good core family structure and hard work, then no shit, they're gonna be disproportionately represented.
Well, also, like, people have been trying to cull them since the dawn of time. So it's like, okay, well, what happens when you do that? Well, you're basically weeding out all the fucking weakness. Only the smartest people are going to be able to survive Egypt and the Holocaust and all this shit. It's like, you are to some degree weeding out, as fucked up as it is, bad genetics. You are actually giving them, because there is a lot of evidence that the Ashkenazi Jews have a very high IQ, like a genius level IQ on average, and there's that, and then there's also the idea that, like I said, their religion really does emphasize intelligence. It really does. You have to learn a lot to be able to participate in the faith, and the culture has the value of learning that information so ingrained that you would easily make an asshole of yourself if you did a bad job of learning it. So it's like, in Christianity, all I gotta know is that Jesus died for my sins. Yeehaw! Repent and forgive. It's like, all right, cool. You don't really need to know too much, but like in Judaism, there's a bunch of cultural traditions that exist, like present in the modern day because of what had happened like historically, and also like in Judaism, the one thing that's really cool about it is there's an emphasis on debate. Like there's a book, I forget what the name of the book is, but there's books of like rabbis are debating about philosophy and like how to interpret the religious texts since the dawn of time. And like the idea of in debate and interpreting the religion as an individual is emphasized within the religion as one of the primary components of it, let's say. So it's like there's a lot about the religion that is very superior in terms of if you want someone to have develop a lot of discipline, a strong mind, and values that will make them successful in life, Judaism might be the best religion, just to go right off the bat. I don't think Judaism is fundamentally true. I don't think that, I don't think that that their Messiah is coming. I don't think that, I think I know why that idea exists symbolically. I think that, the idea of the Messiah is that everyone is the Messiah. That will come to, this was a thing I thought about when I have my spiritual experiences that I've had in my life, but, at one point, very much when I was going through my confronting the barriers to truth that I had set up for myself, at one point I had considered that there was a very Jesus-like conclusion I came to that kind of made me realize why I think the idea of Jesus existed, which is that I fundamentally came to believe that everything was connected in a very literal way. You could conceptualize it that you're on a grid. I think you could incorporate science into the idea. In my exposure to the idea, I think it's very incorporated with science. I think that scientifically it lines up. I think that the idea in science that every action has an equal and opposite reaction is the same thing as the yin and the yang, and that's the same thing as karma. And I think that fundamentally humans are connected in a way where there are certain ideas and concepts and people in your life that will always exist in relation to you. It could present itself a myriad of different ways depending on what causal pathway you go down, but I don't think that there are certain threads you can't entirely break, that you can almost break, or you have to do a tremendous amount to break them. And I think that when I was really encountering that idea for the first time in its entirety, I thought about what the worst thing that could happen is in war, and I was like, well, fundamentally, if everyone was willing to sacrifice themselves for everyone else, no one would have to die. That's the real ticket to peace. It's if everyone is willing to die for everyone else's sins, no one has to die. But there is also a utility in one person sacrificing themselves symbolically to redeem the rest of the group. And I think that pattern exists for a multitude of reasons. And I think the thing that I think Judaism has correct is that the idea that I think the phenomenon that creates the Messiah complex is real. I think that there is such a thing as like messiahs. I think Martin Luther King would be like a messiah. I think that you can be in a place in the grid of people, in the grid, so to speak, that you are uniquely positioned to do what is right, and the necessity for it is so great that it kind of transforms you into something else. Like, that's why I would include Martin Luther King in that group of people, right? The same type of Jesus-esque conclusions he had. I mean, I know he was a pastor, so there's a very logical explanation, but it's like the idea of someone concluding that pacifism, proactive pacifism can create peace, and that they're willing to do that without leading to violence and to try to take that burden on themselves does exist across time. So I think the idea religiously that the Messiah is yet to come is correct. But I think the thing Christianity did better too is incorporating the idea that the Messiah existed in the past as well. That like I don't think Jesus was truly this Messiah. And if he was just one of many people who found themselves in that position. I think that fundamentally when people lie to themselves and lie to other people, they create an imbalance in things. I think like the way humans work is that we're meant to trade and consume information, and if you're honest with yourself, if everyone was purely honest, everyone would get the perfect feedback all the time, right? Like you're like nodes in a network. If you said, hey, look at this thing I wrote, and I didn't feel the need to lie for any reason, whether it's to being scared of hurting your feelings or for whatever reason, or that I'm anything. If I just told you the truth all the time, and everyone told the truth all the time, you would get the most you'd be constantly getting the best input to correct your behavior, right? You'd become the best version of yourself, because you would just be getting the feedback you would be getting if you were honest with yourself. First off, you would look at as valuable and you would take seriously. But then if no one else lied to you, the feedback you'd be getting would be perfect for correcting your behavior, because it would be very honest, right? And the ability for humanity to self-correct its behavior and to learn quickly, if that happened, is kind of like what I think the real end goal of humanity is, whether it's accomplished through AI or technology or through everyone becoming kind of enlightened in some form or another. I think that's the end goal. But I think that what ends up happening is if everyone lies, you lie to no matter which way you lie to yourself, you corrupt your ability to detect the truth intrinsically, and then you will unknowingly lie to others. And then if you lie to other people, you give them incomplete information, and then, because if you think about lying, it actually is fundamentally one of the most evil things you can do. I mean, not to make a big deal of it, but it's like, this is why cheating is a big deal. I thought about this. It's like, when you cheat on someone, they can detect it in some sense. I think everyone's been in that position, right? I don't think anyone's ever been truly cheated on and not felt in their gut something is very wrong, like something's amiss. But then when someone convinces you to ignore that, what they're actually doing is turning you against your own instincts, right? And then the reason it's evil is that maybe one day, if they truly fool you and you never found out they cheated on you, one day you'll be in the room with another person, right? And they'll do the same type of behavior. And I think that the human brain is very impressive. I think if you know when to trust your instincts and you hone your instincts, it can detect a lot of subliminal shit, a lot of really tiny shit. And I think the reason lying to someone's really bad in the cheating example is like, well, you cheat on someone, you lie to them, you trick them, they never knew you cheated on them, and then you break up or whatever. And then the next time they feel that way when they're with someone else, they'll think back to you and they'll be like, well, I felt this way before, I was wrong, therefore I'm probably wrong now. So you increase the likelihood of them encountering hardship and evil, basically. And then until they go back and realize they were wrong about what you did to them, they can never fully self-correct that. And I think that that is a good example of what happens when humanity goes wrong. I think that the individual has a burden to be honest intrinsically and externally insofar as they're able. And as societies get further and further away from that, you turn into something totalitarian. That you have to build the perfect lie to satiate the illusion the population needs. That's like a prerequisite for tyranny, I would say. But I think the reason the idea of a messiah exists is because eventually someone has to, when enough people lie, someone has to stand up and say what the truth is, and when they do, it's not going to go well for them. The first person to do that is going to have to make a sacrifice, but that will correct the rest of the mechanism, right? I mean, the people who wrongfully punish you, it will bug them they'll have to justify their behavior to themselves all the time, which is going to create a lot of hardship for them in their personal lives because they'll be at war with themselves. And then the people who know what was done was wrong, who witnessed it, it'll bug them as well. And that echo it can be very self-correcting over time. Sometimes more than one person needs to do that, let's say. But I think that the idea that Christianity perfected that actually wasn't improvement on Judaism is the idea that pointing out that the Messiah must exist in the past as well as the future. That like you're in a pattern, you could say, I mean, I'm describing it symbolically the way I conceptualize it, but if every action has a equal and opposite reaction, that's the same thing as what the yin and yang is described to be. It's the same thing as what karma is described to be. And if you're connected by karmic forces and I think that's fundamentally true, primarily because I'm logical. I think if the universe operates on the rules of every action has an equal and opposite reaction, my mind must work the same way as an extension of the universe, and so must everything else fundamentally, even though I'm not aware of it on a larger scale. And because I'm only an individual, right? I mean, I can't really track the lies and what everyone else does and how it all plays out, but I can be aware that when I do it, of the impact it has, and I can tangibly notice it. And I think the thing Christianity improved upon was the idea that you want to look into the past for the Messiah and look in the future, and to understand what the idea of the Messiah truly is. I think the idea that the Messiah is yet to come, becoming a polar, let's say, like that idea coming at odds with the Christian supposition because the Christianity says both. Christianity says the Messiah, Jesus will return, the Messiah will return, but he came before as well. I don't think that's literal. I don't think Jesus is going to come back, but I do and if Jesus did actually exist in the past and do it, he was just one guy among thousands who did those things throughout the patterns of history and time. But I think the idea that the Messiah exists in the past and the future is true. More true than to say it only exists in the future. I think to say it only exists in the future is holding on. You're not interpreting the symbol of the religion and integrating it into a logical coexistence within like the way the real world works. I don't think that magic is real. I don't think Jesus was real in the magical sense. No. But I think you can interpret every. Oh yeah, I know you're funny. I know you're funny. But I do think you can interpret each of the lines of the religious text symbolically, right? Like turning water into wine is making the most mundane, trivial thing intoxicating. It's like returning people to the love of life. That's what turning water into wine is. I don't think Jesus literally turned water into wine. I think he turned something, using the liquid as an equivalent, he turned the most trivial things like family and truth and honesty, he turned those trivial, boring suppositions back into something that is intoxicating and enriching in a way that you would associate with wine. And I think that the reason that the text is written that way is if you write down the truth literally and I say 1 + 1 is 2, someone else can come along and pick that apart and say, no, 1 + 1 is not 2, and they can write a whole fucking article about it. But if you ingrain the truth and encode it in a symbolic representation, you can't really do that. You can't, because the part of your brain that logically rips things apart, it only deals in language, it doesn't really deal in symbols. That's what the right hemisphere of your brain does. And that hemisphere of your brain can't talk. But, conveniently enough, you have a hard time ripping apart symbolic ideas in a literal way. You know what I mean? That's why religious symbols are powerful, fundamentally more powerful than any one word is because the symbol can represent a interpretable truth in a way that is incorruptible, versus words by their very nature are corruptible. You see that in politics right now today, that people want to change the definition of words, and in fact they have been changing the definition of words. And you can get a word to mean the correct thing that it should, but as language becomes corrupted, you can't use language to fucking fix it anymore, because if all the words mean nothing, how can you even just talk to someone and tell them what the fuck you're trying to say? You know what I mean? But that doesn't happen symbolically. A symbol, because it's interpretable by the individual and there's a truth encoded in it, it is not corruptible in the same way that the written word is. And that's why I think that religions are written the way they are. I think fundamentally Moses and Jesus and all these people, that Prophet Muhammad, all the prophets that have existed across time, I think they're all people that have encountered the same idea that I have, and thousands of people alive today have, maybe millions, maybe hundreds of millions. Who knows? Who knows how many people have encountered it? But I know I'm not very special. I mean, I know I'm not the only one. But I think that when I had my experience, I had that thought. I was like, man, I wish I could give this, what I went through, to someone else without them having to go through the negative part of it to get to like the joy and the reconnect them with like the love of life. But then I was like, oh, that's a religion. And I laughed my ass off. I was like, oh, you want to create a religion right now. And I understood the temptation of doing it. It's like you encode the truth symbolically in a story. The story has power because of the encoded symbolic truth, and then therefore people can get the benefits of knowing. They can get a lot of the benefits of the truth without having to encounter the fucked up shit, all the lies you've told yourself because you were scared when you were a kid, or whatever the fuck the case may be, right? All the barriers to honesty you put in yourself. But I think the short of it is, I think that Christianity is superior to Judaism in many regards. I do think that the behavior that the cultural practices of Judaism as a cultural identity, like that's what really makes it unique, is that Christianity really isn't a consistent culture. It is influenced the world enough that the Judeo-Christian ethical like ideas are the same suppositions that lead to the Western world. And you can see that in the way that the Constitution is written, for example, like the mentioning of God and everything. But I think that in practice, the Jewish people have managed to hold on to their cultural identity in a very strong, uniform way, and their religious practices are encoded in their actual lives in a way that Christians don't have it encoded. So I think that in terms of a pure behavioral thing, there's way more benefit in Judaism than Christianity. But I think Christianity as a religious text that you're meant to interpret symbolically, I think it's better. I think it's closer to the truth, because it incorporates the idea of past and future in equal measure. And I think that I can't look at saying the Messiah hasn't come yet. Like, someone clinging to that idea indicates to me that they're taking the idea of the Messiah very literally, that there's only ever going to be one Messiah, that it's going to be like someone who's like got powers or something. It's like, no, that's not. I don't think that's what that is. I think the idea of the Messiah is a symbolic interpretation of that occurs across time that is true. I could be the Messiah, or you could be the Messiah. The Messiah is in every person. The Messiah is the person who simply makes the choice to be the Messiah. And I think that is all it really is, right? That's why Jesus is just a fucking carpenter. He's just some guy. He's just some hobo-looking dude. He's not really like this. And I think that's correct. I think that's good representation of the idea of Messiah. I've also heard it said too that the reason he's a carpenter is that if he's not, the thing that makes a carpenter symbolically significant is that if a carpenter is dishonest, you can tell because their work will fall apart. The house they build will fall down. So it's a occupation in the medieval world especially. Carpentry is an occupation that measures honesty, because you can see the merit of the work. And if they didn't do it honestly, it falls apart and breaks. Like, there'll be a tangible, real-world piece of evidence to the dishonesty of the individual. So, I don't know. That's how I look at the whole religion thing. I think there's a lot of utility in religions, but I'm closer to atheistic than anything else. I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not really religious. I believe that science is closer. I think one day science and religion will become the same thing. And that's the goal. I'm hungry, man. Should I go get food, dude?
I don't know. That sounds pretty dangerous. What's next? You gonna touch grass?
Yeah, maybe. I should be able to do it without touching the grass. It should be good. God forbid I touch grass.
Let's see.
It's funny because that's true.
What?
You can like go get in your car without touching the grass.
No, it is true. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I know. You've been here enough times now that you know the layout in memory. Funny. Honestly, now that my place is cleaned up, man, it'd be fun to have people over. The thing that sucks about my apartment is the way it's navigated. Not the way it's navigated. The way it's laid out is very claustrophobic. Like I wouldn't really be able to have like 10 people over. You know what I mean? Because the rooms are. I like the way it's laid out for one person or two people, or maybe even three. But the way they're laid out for a large number of people, I would have to fucking have people hang out outside or in the kitchen. The kitchen's big.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not that the rooms are kind of small, but that's not the real problem. It's that the rooms are, like, the doorways go diagonal of each other, so the rooms don't really blend into each other to create a feeling of open space. It's like you're always in
having
a
more
big
than
corridor.
like, I don't know, like 4 to 5 people at my house is like too many, honestly.
Yeah. I would like to finish cleaning up here and have people over. That would be nice. Man. So if I wrote a script for a radio drama, would you guys be voice actors? Would you pick up minor or major roles?
Minor role, sure.
Alright. This is for the sake of fun, because I'm gonna stop writing the short stories and stuff I've been doing. Okay. What do you think would be a good idea for a radio drama?
Anything that'll allow me to use my
Okay.
late 20th century accent.
A 20th century accent. Oh man. That's just a fucked up thought. God, it's a fucked up thought. I shouldn't have had it. Jesus.
Were you thinking about that squeal like a pig thing from?
You could never guess what I was thinking it'd be interesting to have a radio drama because Troy talked about talking in like a very old style. It reminded me of like colonial America. And then I thought about slavery, and I was like, it'd be interesting to have a radio drama where like all the voice actors are like their identities are relatively unknown to the audience, but they're all black. And then I would actually have them play the roles of different people. And they would basically, where this is going is they would use the hard R. And then after I had that thought, which the reason for that would just be that it would be historically accurate and immersive to the story. The same reason that it exists in like Django Unchained, let's say, right? It's a burden of historical honesty. But then the thought I had afterwards was like, man, that would be funny because thousands of people would be like trying to Google and figure out who the voice actors are. To be like, are they white? Are the white people saying them? And when I imagined that, I was like, what a bunch of pieces of shit. I was like, that alone makes me kind of want to do it, just to be like, just to see how like hard people try to work together to figure out the identity of voice actors if it was hidden. You know what I mean? That's assuming it wasn't like readily evident that the ethnicity of voice actors in question. My brain does that. My brain has like a very quick series of thoughts randomly all the time like that. And then I was just like, that's why I was like, I shouldn't. It was just pointless to even say it. But I think that if you did that, right? If you did a radio drama where you like the voice actors were never disclosed, so no one knew the identity of them. If you said it in a time period that was like, you know, where slavery was a topic that came up in the course of the story, and you had actors say the hard R, I think there'd be mobs of people coordinating online, trying to figure out the identity of the voice actors. And I think that would be a very weird social phenomenon to witness. Like how to watch that witch hunt, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Troy gave me no feedback.
I said yeah.
Oh, you said meow?
Yeah.
Yeah. Would the structure of the radio drama be with dialogue? Like it would be a narrative with dialogue? Or should it be structured in a way that it are broadcasts? Like actual radio transmission broadcasts. so it's more immersive. I think there's merit to each, but I think drama, the narrative drama, would be easier to. It leaves more options on the table. Guys are quiet as fuck.
I started playing Valheim.
God damn.
Have you considered Jared?
Well, yeah, have I considered?
Have you considered? Like, have you ever seriously considered?
I've considered.
Have you ever thought about
I definitely
craving
have.
penis?
Craving penis.
Craving
Yes.
penis?
Well, that only ever comes up when Pete starts talking to me. He tends to bring that up a lot, and it makes me nervous. The topic makes me very shy, so I try to avoid it.
Hey, I don't blame him. You're a healthy man.
Thank you. I'm actually not that healthy. I put on a bit of weight myself. I should lose weight. I gotta start running, going to the gym again.
I need to go to a foreign country and get some bitches.
Get some bitches. I think I'm gonna get in my car and go get some Wendy's.
Why do you have to go to a foreign country to do that?
Jared did his little diatribe on that. I don't actually have to.
Because our culture sucks for women, dude. Women suck here. That's why.
Or I could become a Mennonite or something. Convert for a plain Mennonite girl. Won't stab me in the fucking back. Besides, those people could use some fucking genetic diversity, I fucking swear.
I don't know, man. I think women are just trouble, man. They really are. I feel like they'll fuck you over eventually. It's only a matter of time. Obviously, I mean, I've picked good women that probably wouldn't have, but the temptation is always there in a way that is different with men. I mean, the temptation is there for men too. It's just different in nature. I'm really kind of alluding to the idea of the animus and the anima in psychology.
The anime and the anime.
Anime and the anime, yeah. Well, fundamentally, women are meant to be attracted to multiple men. That's what it comes down to.
Well, men are
Like-
meant to be attracted to multiple women.
Not true.
Why not?
The animus and the anima. Men are attracted to multiple women impulsively. Like, you have so genetically, you have a impulse to spread your seed, which is why, like, a girl with messy makeup who looks kind of like a whore but is hot has a particular sex appeal. But in terms of the depths of your psychology, in terms of archetypes, Jungian archetypes, when a man becomes infatuated with a woman, he measures her against the ideal of a singular woman. It's called, I don't remember which one's animus or anima. I think that's called the animus, which is like the idea that you encounter a woman and she becomes a symbol of. Hold on, I got a call from Tech. Yeah, damn call. It's the animus and the anima, damn it. Hold on. Hello?
How do you feel about that, Troy? Do you think men are meant to be with one woman?
I think there's a reason, regardless of the being gender specific. I think there's a reason as to why most cultures are, just two partners.
Yeah.
There is a distinct reason for that. I'm not even gonna get into the whole gender aspect of it. I don't find that interesting.
Yeah.
But just the fact that I mean, there's a lot you could get into it, but for me, what it comes down to is just the simple fact that emotions are messy enough with two people. I remember at one point and I never thought that because when you're a kid, you're like, oh man, am I gonna have all the women? But I remember I saw the horror on this one dude's face, this like one YouTuber and streamer I aspire to, and he literally said, if someone wants to deal with more than one woman in his life, he literally like pulls his hair back and his eyes go wide, and he's like, be my fucking guest. And I'm like, and hey, you know what? He's right. At least I think he's right.
My understanding of the anima is too shallow to really discuss them, but it's really the animus and the anima is, like you're saying, men are drawn to want to fuck more than one woman naturally, whereas women are naturally more romantic in terms of their fantasies. But then the part of your personality that you repress, which is the opposing side, is what creates the dichotomy. Like the man represses his feminine side, and that's the animus. And then the woman represses her masculine side, and that's the anima. So that's why that is what causes, to some extent, from my understanding, the representation of the ideal in seeking. Like, because women repress the desire to be drawn to more than one person, because that's traditionally a feminine or a masculine quality, whenever she measures a man against an ideal, she's measuring him against multiple men. The pool of all men is what she's doing. And conversely, whenever a man falls in love with a woman, she becomes like a symbolic representation of the perfect woman to him. She's like a personification of femininity herself when she like finds love, let's say. So it's really a nature of the fact that it's about what side of them are they repressing, right? Men aren't repressing the side of themselves attracted to multiple women. It's relatively embraced culturally, and it is expected of men. Men are expected to be dogs. But because women repress that side of themselves, it tends to come out in a more potent way. So I think they're just inversions of the same thing. Both people have each ideal incorporated them in each measure, but when you repress something within yourself and it becomes part of your shadow, it tends to come out very aggressively. You get possessed by your shadow, in other words. Like, so, men tend to cheat pretty logically. I mean, they kind of like map out if they're going to cheat or not, and decide to do it, and then they tend to be pretty, like, they don't tend to be possessed when they cheat. Men kind of just decide to rationally cheat, and then state it forthrightly. Maybe they lie about it to their partner because they're a coward, but in their head, they're very conscious of what they might do as they're doing it. Whereas a woman typically would not be, because the part of her personality that wants to do that is dissociated from her. Like, she could easily look at someone as like, oh, he's like my best friend, and I look at spending time with him, while repressing the idea that there's a sexual component to it. Men don't really repress that sexual component in the same way. So I think it's different, and it's also not different. I think that it's just a matter of what side of it is being repressed. I actually have to read more Jung to engage with the idea, because there is a deep dichotomy to the whole thing. I think there's a distinct difference between the way men and women typically interact in that sense, though. I mean, I do think that I know more women that cheat than men. In fact, in terms of yeah, I know more women that have cheated than men, but they're less honest about it. Men that have cheated that I know say they've cheated. Like, I've cheated on someone once. Yeah, you can make the case for twice potentially, but we'll say twice, fuck, for the sake of erring on the side of caution and honesty. Twice. We'll say I've cheated twice. But once was in high school, it wasn't that serious. The second time, depending on how the gray area maps itself out, would have been more egregious. But there was no part of me that was ever, like, unaware of what would happen as I was moving towards that. It was very much a thing that took place that I was conscious of the whole time. Whereas my family's all women, I'm the only guy. So my sisters, it's like, they had friends where they're like, oh, he's just my friend, he's my best friend. And I'm watching the way they're talking about it. I'm like, no, you obviously love this dude. What are you doing? You can't hang out with this guy. And it's like, and they have. And what happened you would have thought happened. So I don't know. I think one component of it is this is like the whole opposite crack thing. I think men and women are by nature designed to repress, to one degree or another, repress their masculine or feminine nature, and in doing that, that is what creates the draw to the opposite sex. It's a big component of it, right? That's like the whole opposite attracts. It's like, and it works out, I mean, really well. I think the structure of it is correct. Like, kind of in the same way you were saying that I think why you think most cultures lean towards monogamy.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, monogamy is definitely superior to polygamy. If you have a polygamous society, it's going to become violent eventually, which is what history and the data shows. But I think that it's all very complicated, honestly. Way more complicated than you would like it to be. Because people tend to read psychology. I didn't read psychology differently until I had my spiritual... Like, one of the things that was cool is when I had my spiritual experiences, I kind of like had this whole hypothesis on paper and I mapped it out. And half of it was completely insane. But there were components of it that weren't. And the ones that weren't, I had not read in any sort of psychological literature. And when I found it later, years later, that like there was literature that people would come to the exact same conclusions, the exact same reasons I had, by examining their own thoughts. And that was like one of the things that made them psychologists / philosophers, because there's actually a pretty big overlap there between those two fields. And I think that, like, people tend to read psychology, philosophy is better about this, but in psychology, people tend to read psychology very literally, like very verbatim. It's like, okay, this word has this definition, that means this guy's saying that, and that's it. But I think when you actually think about how they came to the conclusions of those ideas, and you understand that, like, there really is a continuous picking apart of dichotomy inside of your own.
Thank you for watching EWGFI Gaming, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Have a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will see you next time. Thanks.